However, the space in this region is very stable, so even using 100 of these water gates at once is no problem. Therefore, Your Majesty can rest assured about safety. Gladys thought the Emperor was worried about this technology, which is why he asked so many questions. He then asked, since this is a one-time model, are there other types that are not one-time? Or perhaps better in performance? Maybe a long-term cross-universe gate, like a Stargate? The Emperor really is full of questions. Gladys couldn't really argue, as these questions are not secret. She simply answered, yes. Currently, our Holy Elf Empire has 3 types of these cross-universe travel devices. One is the single-use, one-way delivery type. The second is a short-term, two-way type that can be maintained for a short time, acting like a small Stargate for fleet transport. The third is a permanent, two-way Stargate, meant for connecting different universes. Honestly, even in our empire, we find it very difficult to fully master this technology. So far, we have only built 2 of these water gates of the Stargate type, because connecting to other universes is very complex. The 2 universes that we had good relations with were also invaded and destroyed by the devouring civilization. The Stargates we built were also damaged. Gladys's tone was filled with anger. Then she added, however, these 3 types also come in large, medium, and small sizes. The main difference is the number of ships sent. The higher the level, the more the construction costs increase exponentially. So, unless necessary, we mainly use small models, occasionally medium ones. Large devices are strategic and can only be used with permission from the High-Level Council. It seems the Holy Spirit Empire is quite advanced in technology. In a certain field of science, research is conducted based on needs. This is a normal development process for technology. For Zhao Chun, he often replaces old tech with new, thanks to system assistance. Otherwise, he couldn't have upgraded so quickly. Your Excellency Gladys, the inter-universe travel technology we agreed to learn is just one of the many, Zhao Chun said with a smile, looking at Gladys. Gladys immediately waved her hands to explain, Your Majesty, I didn't mean to hide anything. First, the only device I can control right now is this water dragon gate, and giving it to you puts me under a lot of pressure. As for the other 2 technologies you want to learn about, I don't have them, and even if you want to learn, you probably need to go to the Holy Spirit Empire to get such opportunities. Especially the Stargate model. I can't produce it for you. Ha ha ha, I was just joking, Zhao Qin said with a smile. Gladys was speechless, surprised that this emperor truly had no heirs at all. This was very different from the atmosphere of their elven race. What's the plan for the next steps? Zhao Qin asked. This is the schedule I planned. Please review the following. If there are no issues, we will proceed accordingly. Gracie handed a travel plan to the emperor, as it concerns the emperor of the Dragon Empire. She was careful not to overlook anything and quickly prepared the schedule. Zhao Qin looked on, while Gracie explained beside him. As long as you agree, we can leave as soon as tomorrow. That day includes the time for my fleet to travel back and forth to retrieve the Water Dragon Gate device. Afterwards, we will stay in the Holy Spirit Empire to discuss various cooperation matters. I have arranged 10 days for this, which is enough to ensure Your Majesty's safe return. Of course, if Your Majesty wishes to stay longer in the Holy Spirit Empire, I have no problem with that. In the end, Zhao Chun decided to depart in 3 days. Before that, he needed to organize many things. Military and political affairs within the empire could be handled entirely by Charlotte and Lilith. However, in terms of military research and development, Zhao Chun had to oversee everything. The Imperial Military Research Institute, the Water Dragon Gate device gifted by the Holy Spirit Empire, was already placed in the laboratory here. Researchers worked around the clock to analyze and dismantle the device. Behind a large transparent floor-to-ceiling window, this Water Dragon Gate is not only crucial for our inter-universe travel project. We also need to study its internal structure, materials, and energy sources. Although we are AT6 level technological civilization, they might be using completely different theories or technological models from another universe. Even at T6, if we learn from it and adapt, we could improve our technology in many ways. Zhao Chun was giving instructions to the project leaders behind him. Yes, I will ensure the tasks assigned by His Majesty are completed. We will quickly understand and master this new technological device. Annie, the chief engineer, looked excited, eager to take the lead. People who didn't know her might think Annie was just a hardworking person. Zhao Qin noticed the corners of Annie's mouth that couldn't stay down. She probably knew she was going on a business trip this time, and she was finally free to relax in her own way. That's why she was so happy and excited. This time, I want to bring a tech expert to learn about other universe civilizations' technology. Since Annie was so interested in new tech, there was no need to choose. Just you and me on this trip, Zhao Qin said, placing his hand on Annie's shoulder with a kind smile. But that smile, in Annie's eyes, looked more like a demon's. She shivered all over. Her smile froze on her face instantly. I get travel sickness. Whenever I go on a trip, I feel uncomfortable all over, Annie said sadly. Zhao Qin didn't tease her anymore. Learning about other universe civilizations' technology was best suited for someone like Zhao Qin. Even if they needed a tech expert, it wouldn't be someone from the current Dragon Empire. There were many things at home waiting for them to handle. Then you must work hard at home. I've already told my assistant Nicole to watch over you. She will keep an eye on you for me. If I come back and find out you've been slacking off, just wait and see how I deal with you, Zhao Qin said, giving Annie a sharp look. Annie immediately promised confidently, "Rest assured, Your Majesty, I will complete all the tasks." The tasks on the work list were nothing to Annie. Assuming a workday of 8 hours, Annie can finish everything in just 5 hours. The remaining 3 hours can be used for relaxing. Finally, she can take a break. Besides the regular tasks, I have also prepared a special work list for you. I will personally check on your progress later. And I have asked Nana to help me monitor your work as well, Zhao Qin said, patting Annie, who looked frozen in place. Please rest assured, Your Majesty. During this time, I can move into your office. I will work together with my sister, Nana added confidently. It seemed as if this statement shattered Annie's frozen expression completely. Zhao Qin nodded with satisfaction and then turned to leave, leaving Annie, looking sad and resigned, standing there. While I am away, if you have any military-related matters, contact Nana, Annie, or Iris. They are fully capable of handling military affairs. Although Annie is a bit lazy, she will complete her tasks perfectly when given instructions, Zhao Qin told Lily, who was following behind. Because there were many things to explain, Lily had been accompanying Zhao Qin these days, taking notes on his instructions. Lily nodded and said, "Understood." Although their ruler in the Dragon Empire often seemed like a hands-off leader, careful observation shows that the Emperor always assigns capable people to oversee each part of the empire. It's like fitting the most suitable gear into a crucial part of a machine. In the end, the machine runs smoothly, with no issues in any part. So even if Zhao Qin, the Emperor, is not present, it won't cause major problems for the Empire's operation, preventing chaos from breaking out. In these project plans, as long as the chief engineers and scientists have any needs, we will try to meet them. Currently, the most important goal for the Dragon Empire is to break through the current bottleneck. If we can master T7 level technology and develop even one T7 interstellar battleship, it will be more important than building a fleet at this moment, Zhao Qin advised. Although quantity is important, if the enemy has technology far beyond ours, we need to have the strength to face them directly. Only then can we stand equal. I understand, Lily said. Zhao Qin and Lily arrived at the landing pad of the Empire's Military Research Institute. The shuttle they came in was parked there, and nearby, another ready shuttle was waiting. To save time, we won't go back together. You go to the Dragon Emperor Starship Command ship. I will return to the Imperial Guard fleet, Zhao Qin said. Are you sure? You're taking part of the Storm Blizzard fleet to visit the Holy Elf Empire? Marshal Charlotte said she can skip the visit and let you command the reverse scale fleet instead. She also suggested you could take the T6 Despair King-class interstellar dreadnought as your flagship. Lily expressed some concern. Zhao Qin waved his hand and replied, "This visit is just a diplomatic one, not a battle." Although the reverse scale fleet is very strong in combat, on their territory, strength alone doesn't help much. Can you withstand their barrage of 10, 20, or 50,000 interstellar warships? The Storm Blizzard fleet is more suitable for this kind of mission. If something unexpected happens, the Storm Blizzard fleet, made up of cruisers and battleships, can help me break out. As for the T6 Despair King-class dreadnought, it's a good ship, but given the current situation, I plan to take the T6 Gluttony Demon Starship as my temporary flagship. hearing His Majesty's arrangements. Although it wasn't the ideal Star Destroyer of the Demon King class, the Gluttony Demon King starship was still a flagship and a good choice. Do you need anything else? Should we bring more supplies for the logistics fleet? Lilith thought for a moment and asked. Zhao Chun helplessly shook his head. He pinched Lilith's cheek and said, I said too much. We're going on a visit, a negotiation, not a battle. What's the use of bringing so many strategic resources? Moreover, in the worst case, are we going to fight a war of attrition with the enemy? Or are we going to escape as quickly as possible? Bringing so many interstellar supply ships might actually slow down our fleet's movement. Just bring enough. He said a few more words. Zhao Chun could feel Lilith's worries. If they kept talking like this, she might change her mind and try to stop him from going to the Holy Spirit Elf Empire, just like Charlotte. To prevent that from happening, Zhao Chun said his goodbyes early and boarded the shuttle. Lilith watched the shuttle leave. Honestly, she was really worried. The time Zhao Chun disappeared for over half a year was the worst period she remembered. Now, Zhao Chun was about, although he had been to the outer space beyond the universe before, that was with the help of the mechanical race. But now, he was heading to a universe with other interstellar civilizations, and both sides knew very little about each other. No one knew what might happen. It's not false to say she was worried, but she also understood, from a rational point of view, that Zhao Chun's reasons for going were valid. From a big-picture perspective, Zhao Chun had to go. It was his duty as the emperor of the Xiongling Empire. If the empire hadn't been established in the first place, if everything was still that a sudden thought crossed my mind. But quickly, Lilith's self-deprecating remark pushed it aside. How could I have such a naive idea? Some things are not within your power to achieve. For example, the path I am walking now was mostly pushed along by others to get here. After parting from Lilith, Zhao Chun naturally went to meet the fleet on this voyage. In a certain open space, more than 30,000 starships of the Starfighter class are stationed here, waiting for further orders. When that shuttle appeared, the two fleet commanders present were both surprised. Prepare to welcome His Majesty aboard, said Marshal Qi Tong. The moment Marshal Qi Tong saw the Emperor appear, she made arrangements. On the bridge, a sofa-style throne had already been prepared, because she remembered the Emperor saying he preferred a soft, comfortable seat over a hard throne. Ideally, he would be able to lie down on it. So, for this escort mission, she had arranged everything on her own ship well in advance. But what happened next was something Marshal Qi Tong never expected. She discovered that the shuttle carrying the Emperor was actually heading toward the Imperial Guard fleet. Marshal, the secretary nearby, contact the Emperor immediately, she ordered without hesitation. Soon, a video window popped up. On the screen was Zhao Chun, the Emperor, who had just boarded. Qi Tong, is something the matter? I just arrived, and you're already rushing to contact me. Zhao Chun looked over with confusion, thinking she must have something very important to discuss. Marshal Qi Tong looked seriously at the Emperor and asked, Your Majesty, is there something that made you go to the Imperial Guard fleet first? I was just returning to my own ship. I left the Starship Dragon King command ship for Lilith. Zhao Chun shrugged and explained. Isn't your flagship the Gluttony Demon King starship? Marshal Qi Tong frowned. That tone sounded like someone who drove to pick up their loved one, but saw them get into a different car with someone else. Who said my flagship is the Gluttony Demon King starship? Zhao Chun asked with confusion. The Gluttony Demon King starship is the strongest starship in this escort fleet, and you also said it would serve as the temporary flagship. So, isn't the Gluttony Demon King starship your main ship? Marshal Qi Tong replied. Zhao Chun chuckled softly and said, Who says the person with the highest rank has to stay on the flagship? I think this starship is good enough. Don't say more. I'll stay here. The Gluttony Demon King starship remains the flagship. If there's a battle, you will be in charge of commanding. Marshal Qi Tong suddenly fell silent. It seemed there was no rule that the highest-ranking person had to stay on the fleet's flagship, but everyone had always followed this unspoken rule. Looking at the dimming video window, Marshal Qi Tong, usually cold and calm, now felt a hint of disappointment. Commander, since His Majesty isn't coming to our ship, what about the seat? The secretary pointed carefully at the throne-like sofa and asked. At this moment, Anyone could see that the temperature around Marshal Qitong was very low. Although His Majesty wasn't here now, it didn't mean he wouldn't board our flagship later, Marshal Qitong insisted stubbornly. The secretary sighed helplessly. She never expected her commander to be so stubborn over such a small matter. Zhao Chun, the instigator, also didn't expect his decision to upset a fierce dragon marshal. Now, he had arrived at the flagship bridge of the Royal Guard fleet, which was also the deputy flagship of this voyage fleet. Looking at the brand-new bridge before him, Zhao Chun saw a familiar figure. Your Majesty. Panda girl Xiong Lulu ran over immediately after seeing Zhao Chun. She stood in front of him and gave a proper military salute. How is the new ship coming along? Can it handle this mission? Zhao Chun asked with a hint of teasing in his voice. This was actually a new flagship they had just taken over. The T6 Purple Gold Silver Dragon class heavy interstellar battleship. Rest assured, Your Majesty, we have full control of this battleship. We guarantee your safety. Panda girl Xiong Lulu said confidently. The 3-day deadline arrived quickly. On the T6 Purple Gold Silver Dragon class heavy interstellar battleship, the first guest from another universe arrived. The bridge's light door opened, and the elf Gladys stepped in. Her eyes showed surprise as she looked at the brand-new bridge and the various departments across it. The entire bridge looked like a dragon's head, giving a proud and majestic feeling. She had seen the exterior and interior of this battleship before. Although its style was different from the typical elven aesthetic, even the highly refined elves like Gladys had to admit that the ship was very beautiful. Or rather, she felt that all the starships of the Eagle Dragon series had a special beauty. She believed that even elves from her universe might not like this style, but they wouldn't say the ships were ugly. When designing interstellar ships, the elves placed great importance on aesthetics. A famous high-ranking elven starship engineer once said, "A beautiful starship isn't necessarily the strongest, but a strong starship is definitely beautiful." Welcome, please take a seat. Zhao Chun sat on the throne, pointing to a chair beside him. Greetings, Your Majesty. Gladys still respectfully saluted the Emperor. Is everything ready? Zhao Chun looked at Gladys. All preparations are complete. We can depart in half an hour, Gladys replied. Zhao Chun looked out the window at the 30,000 Storm Snow Ace fleet ships that were already prepared. Actually, the number of interstellar warships in the Storm Snow Ace fleet now exceeds 70,000. This time, Marshal Qitong only took about half of that number, just 10 fleet corps. Bringing so many starships, I assume your side doesn't mind, Zhao Chun said with a light smile. As the highest emperor of this universe civilization, it's no problem to bring these escort fleets, Gladys said directly. That was her honest opinion. When the Holy Spirit Empire's Elf King visited other universes, they would at least bring 30,000 starships for escort. It was like preparing for a small interstellar war. Elves also value etiquette very highly. Other civilizations in the universe knew this well and often treated the Elf King's visits as opportunities to enjoy luxurious performances for free. The first batch of starships returning to the Holy Spirit Empire has already informed our Elf King and High Council about your visit. All 5 Elf Kings and the High Council warmly welcome you. They also said that 2 Elf Kings will meet you at the universe crossing point. The only regret is that the preparations were too short. Otherwise, we would have prepared a grand welcome ceremony at your arrival point in the Holy Spirit Empire. Now, we can only postpone that ceremony until you arrive at our High Council planet, Gladys explained. Zhao Chun waved his hand casually and said, "This visit is for discussing matters. There's no need for all that. We can quickly and simply finish talking about everything. I also don't like attending banquets or similar events. At such occasions, I would prefer to visit places like the Science and Technology Museum of the Sacred Elf Empire. Proper etiquette is still necessary. I will arrange everything for the place you want to visit. This trip will definitely meet Your Majesty's expectations," Gladys responded. "Are you going to stay on my flagship from now on?" Zhao Chun looked at Gladys, who showed no intention of leaving. She had mentioned such an arrangement before, but it hadn't been finalized yet. "Yes, I have entrusted all other matters to my deputy. He will handle everything. I will accompany you on your journey aboard your flagship. I will also serve as your escort during your visit to our Sacred Elf Empire. This is also the idea conveyed by our Elf King. Of course, if you are not satisfied with me, I can also. It's fine. We are getting to know each other. This arrangement is quite good, Zhao Chun said casually, accepting the guide's plan. Gladys said nothing, her gaze fixed on the Emperor Dragon before her. Honestly, this emperor is quite strange. Sometimes, he seems very powerful and commanding, but other times, he feels very kind and approachable, completely unlike someone at the top of power. Next, we wait. From the fleet Gladys brought, one of the starships hatches opened, revealing the familiar Water Dragon Gate device. But this time, the Water Dragon Gate was larger. The previous one was small, this one is medium-sized. It can handle the space travel of 30,000 starships. Usually, this is a military strategic device. It was allowed by the High-Level Council specifically to welcome the visit of the Emperor Dragon to the Sacred Elf Empire. This way, there is no need to use many small Water Dragon Gates, Gladys explained. Zhao Chun nodded suddenly. Then he watched as the medium-sized water gate slowly unfolded. A cloud of white mist appeared around the device, gradually covering it completely. This white mist looked a bit like the ink used when the Dark Legion fleet invaded the Shilong Empire's universe. Perhaps both share some similar scientific principles. Soon, the expanding white mist stopped growing. It stayed within a certain area. All right. Next, please have your Majesty's escort fleet enter the white mist one by one, following the standard formation of each fleet. The navigation coordinates have been set. Once inside the mist, it will take about 3 hours to reach our Holy Spirit Empire's universe. Because this involves a medium-sized water gate, the travel time is slightly shorter. My fleet will split into 3 parts, accompanying your fleet from the front, middle, and rear. Gladys carefully explained her plan. Zhao Chun nodded and looked at Commander Xianxiong Lulu. Just follow Commander Gladys's instructions. Also, inform Qitong about this, he added. Yes. Lulu immediately began making arrangements. It was clear she was very excited about this mission. After all, this was a journey to another universe, something few in the Shilong Empire had experienced. Lulu couldn't be less excited. The ship Zhao Chun was on was positioned in the middle to rear section of the white mist. After waiting for a while, it was finally Zhao Chun's turn. He watched the white mist grow closer and closer. He sat on the throne without speaking, but his eyes carefully observed every visible detail. Rest assured, Your Majesty, we've used this water gate many times, and it's completely safe. The voyage is smooth, just like using a star gate for subspace travel, Gladys said, noticing the silent emperor sitting there. Because this was her first attempt at interdimensional space travel, she was nervous and worried, so she immediately explained herself. Zhao Chun didn't say much. He looked at the white fog filling the entire window, and the surrounding starships had completely disappeared from sight. He then looked at the ship's radar. The radar's range was limited to the nearby area, barely showing the positions of the surrounding starships. Before entering, no matter how fast they were going, once they entered this white fog area, all the starships' positions seemed to freeze in place. Earlier, Zhao Chun had quietly asked Xiong Lulu to do an experiment related to this. This showed that in this space, the speed of starship travel was limited. It was very similar to subspace travel through a stargate. The starships moved smoothly, without any bumps, and it didn't even put any pressure on the crew. How much do you know about space travel? When there was nothing interesting to observe, Zhao Chun looked at Gladys. Since they could only sit and wait now, he decided not to waste time and see if he could learn something useful. Gladys replied, Well, I have some basic knowledge. What would you like to know, Your Majesty? If you're interested in this area, once we reach the Holy Spirit Empire, I can request experts and scholars to come and discuss it with you. It was clear that this emperor was a scientist at heart, as rumored in the Dragon Empire. The development and manufacturing of starships in the Dragon Empire were closely related to this emperor. He was a genius in this field himself. Then let's talk about what you know. You also know about order. How much do you know about ink? Zhao Chun asked directly, bringing up the recent shadow over the Dragon Empire. Ink. Gladys naturally knew what ink was. She hadn't wasted her time in the Dragon Empire. She also heard about the Xiongling Empire resisting an attack from the Order. This is why she is so humble in her attitude toward the Emperor. Although the Order has not threatened the Holy Elf Empire for many years, the shadow it cast on the Holy Elf Empire still lingers in the minds of high-level elves who experienced those scenes. It was a very terrifying force. The Holy Elf Empire survived only after paying a heavy price. Even now, when they think back to those times, the elf commanders are not confident they could fully handle the disasters they faced. Gladys explained, as we understand it, the Order is a way to cross the universe's barriers and enter another universe. I heard this term before when I interacted with the mechanical race. You should know about universe barriers. If we compare each universe to a room, then the barrier is like the wall between rooms. To understand what's inside each room, you need a door. That's what our inter-universe travel creates. A door between two rooms. It can be permanent or temporary. Generally, these doors don't harm the walls much. But the Order cannot do this. Gladys introduced a new idea. Why can't they? Zhao Chen asked in surprise. Because they are not physical beings. The Order is a consciousness-based creature, beyond all known biological types. That's why they can reach level 7 technological civilization. But in gaining this level, they also lost something. They cannot normally penetrate a universe's barrier. In other words, they cannot build doors, Gladys said seriously. Gladys paused, then continued. If they cannot build gates, what will they do if they want to invade this room? There are only two options. First, they could destroy the walls of this room with violence. This method takes a long time, usually relying on their consciousness to slowly wear down the walls. However, this approach is time-consuming and easily disturbed. The walls of the universe can repair themselves, which means you need to persist in this effort. We call this process consuming the order of a universe. The second option is, if they cannot destroy a wall violently and cannot build a gate, how can they infiltrate? To give an analogy, the universe's barrier is like a wall that isn't waterproof, so special liquids can seep through it. Over time, this creates spots and stains on the wall. You call this ink, and that is what it is. Gladys's words made Zhao Chen seem to understand something. So how do they produce this ink? Zhao Chen asked. By using soul power. If I'm not mistaken, before the Order tries to invade your universe, there must have been several large-scale cosmic wars within your universe in a short period. Many people were killed or injured, right? Gladys looked at Zhao Chen. Zhao Chen seemed to realize something. Soul power is actually a force that the Order has always controlled. They can use this power not only to create their dark fleet, but also to coordinate their attacks. They can gather the soul power generated within a universe in a short time to form these inks. Then, they use these inks to bring their dark fleet into this universe. Then why did this process suddenly stop? So far, there has been no news. Zhao Chen expressed his doubt. Because this ink also consumes soul power when it is sent out with the Dark Legion fleet. In simple terms, it is a cooling period. Once this cooling period is over, the Dark Legion fleet can use this ink again to descend upon the target universe. After hearing Gladys's explanation, Zhao Chen understood why the Order had previously tried so hard to cause a large-scale war in the Xianglong Empire universe. Because large wars lead to casualties, and with casualties, a lot of soul power can be generated. This allows the creation of ink, which enters this universe and ultimately achieves invasion. So, before, in our universe, did we also find some people who believe in order? Are they the ones causing the wars? What is their relationship with order? Zhao Chen recalled past events. Gladys was not surprised by this situation and simply explained calmly, what you mentioned, I know. Similar things also happened in our Holy Elf Empire. We even found these corruptors in the High Council. Corruptors? Zhao Chen repeated the unfamiliar word. Corruptors are, simply put, intelligent beings whose souls are invaded by order. Initially, there was a protective barrier of the universe, so neither Order nor the Dark Legion fleet under Order could enter the target universe. But Order has a special ability. It can directly enter the target universe, especially in the minds of weak-willed, borderline intelligent beings. It spreads its thoughts in the form of dreams. The success rate is not high. Most intelligent beings just see it as a dream. But if just one person accepts this thought out of 1,000, then it is considered successful. This person is called a corruptor. As they hear the words of order in their dreams, they gradually come to believe in order and abandon their original beliefs. These individuals are the first followers of order in a universe. They begin spreading the belief in order and forming different types of organizations. Most of the time, they develop within local religious groups, gradually becoming more sinister. Eventually, They reveal their true nature when the time is right. Although this method is slow, it allows order to destroy a universe from within without much effort. Even if they fail, the internal conflicts they cause can lead to many casualties. This also produces a large amount of spiritual energy, indirectly helping order achieve its goals. I didn't expect order to have such power. It seems I need to be careful about the possibility of these corruptors appearing inside the Dragon Emperor's realm. Why must there be a civil war? Why can't these corruptors slowly climb to the top of this universe's power? Wouldn't that be a better approach? And order only needs to share some advanced technology with these corruptors. These corruptors could easily defeat most T5 civilizations and those below T5. Zhao Chun then thought of another question. Gladys explained, our top researchers have studied this issue. We also questioned some of the captured corruptors. We found that order usually does not directly give these corruptors top-tier T6 technology. At most, they provide near T6 weapons and equipment. As you mentioned earlier, in most universes, T6 technology is already at the top level, capable of overthrowing all interstellar powers. So why doesn't order do this? We have a hypothesis. It is that order does not trust these corruptors. They are also worried about raising tigers and causing trouble. As I mentioned earlier, these corruptors are often people with fragile hearts or extreme ideas that they cannot realize in real life. These people believe in order, mainly because they long for power or the idea of eternal order. Suppose some corruptors gain T6 technological power from order and establish a unified interstellar empire in their universe. They become the strongest beings above all others. So, do you think these corruptors would be willing to dedicate everything to order and merge into it? When Zhao Chun heard this, he suddenly understood. Greed is a powerful force. Order, as an intelligent entity, should know that the greed of wise beings is a double-edged sword. Having greed can make these corruptors useful to order. But these greedy order keepers might also crave power and become rulers themselves. I believe that in the past, order has probably faced such situations, Zhao Chun said. Learning from mistakes makes one wiser. So order would keep some tricks when training these corruptors. That explains everything. Besides the Dark Legion fleet, I also found other military forces controlled by order. There are interstellar insect swarms and ghost-like legion fleets. Do you know about these? Zhao Chun asked. We know about the interstellar insect swarms. Even they have consciousness and souls. Compared to regular intelligent life, controlling them is easier because you only need to control their strongest queen insects. We have fought against the order-controlled insect swarms before. The Order Insect Swarm is a name given by the Holy Spirit Empire to the interstellar insect swarms under Order's control. As for the Ghost Legion you mentioned, we haven't encountered them before. But I have a guess. Order, when invading other universes, discovered some warlike races. These interstellar races are very similar to insect armies and are very good at fighting. For these types of insect armies, Order tries to control them in every way. They are turned into their military forces. Because the Black Legion fleet, which is directly controlled by Order, has fought against your Dragon Legion. You should be familiar with the combat style of the Black Legion fleet. In terms of fighting strength with the same number of ships, the Black Legion fleet might have some losses at first because they had no way to respond initially. But after fighting them more, you'll see they are just regular interstellar fleets, with a few ships at nearly T7 level appearing sometimes. And they can also come back to life. Other than that, they don't have many special fighting features. Their limitations are also quite big. For example, they don't have physical bodies. After invading a planet, they can only destroy it but cannot take control of it. This is similar to insect armies of Order, but those can swallow all life on a planet to grow their fleet. Also, the Black Legion ships don't have physical bodies, so they resist physical attacks better. But energy attacks usually do more damage to them. So, if you develop fleets that use energy attacks, you can gain an advantage when fighting the Black Legion. Once you understand their weaknesses, you can even win with fewer ships against many. Gladys's words show that the Holy Spirit Empire has gained a lot of combat experience fighting the Black Legion fleet. So, Order probably also thought about having different types of troops and started organizing their forces. With Order's insect armies and other fleets, you mentioned the undead, which is probably one of them, Gladys said. Zhao Chun nodded slightly. It seems that this Order Undead is a new subordinate of the Holy Spirit Empire after they overcame the threat of order. Your Majesty, we will arrive at the Holy Spirit Empire soon. Greatest looked at the time and said happily. One last question. How is your progress on developing T7 level technology in the Holy Spirit Empire? Zhao Chun asked directly. Hearing this question, Greatest hesitated and shook his head. We have been working on T7 development for a long time, but for some reason, there has been no progress. Do you know if there are other civilizations with T7 technology besides the Order? Zhao Chun asked. If there is a second civilization with T7 technology in this universe, then defeating Order with their own strength might no longer be the only option. After all, defeating Order alone would take a lot of time. If they could find a way to contact another T7 civilization, it might open new paths. Greatest shook his head. So far, our Holy Spirit Empire has not found any other T7 civilizations. Our researchers believe that, within the universe we are in, there might really be only the Order civilization at T7 level. Otherwise, with how aggressively Order is consuming the universe, other T7 civilizations would have appeared to stop them. This suggests either that Order is the only T7 civilization, or that within this universe, Order is the only T7 civilization. Other universes are far away, so we cannot contact other T7 civilizations, and Order itself cannot reach them either. Hearing Greatest's analysis, it made some sense. But is it really true that Order is the only T7 civilization? Zhao Chun had no answer in his heart. This made him think of the Star Alliance universe he had encountered across time. He wondered how far the hopeful and talented daughter of the heavens had developed that universe. Could it be that, with such methods, the Star Alliance universe still hasn't reached T7 technological civilization? Does that mean he still has a chance? Perhaps, long ago, the Star Alliance universe was already destroyed by Order in the flow of time. For Zhao Chun, this is a mystery, possibly a puzzle he may never solve in his lifetime. While Zhao Chun was pondering these thoughts, the white mist outside the starship's window disappeared, and before him appeared a starfield scene. In the dark space of the universe, he could see 2 stars in the distance, along with several planets. Zhao Chun looked over these scenes. It seems that, although they are different universes, the situations inside are very similar. Before Zhao Chun's ship, a group of fierce dragon starships had already arrived here. They formed a battle formation centered around this location. Although he was invited here to negotiate with the Holy Spirit Empire, he knew he couldn't let his guard down. Marshal Red-Eyed, who arrived first, understood this well, so he was prepared for any danger. Zhao Chun also saw the welcoming fleet. It was another star fleet, but only about 3,000 starships. Though not many, all of them were T5 and T6 level starships. Like the elven starships under Gladys before, these ships looked very beautiful. Zhao Chun had long noticed that the materials used for these elven starships were somewhat different. After asking Gladys several times, she finally told him. Within the Holy Spirit Empire, there is a special raw material that the fierce dragon universe does not have. It is called the World Tree. According to Gladys, this seems to be a belief of the Holy Spirit Empire, similar to their frequent mention of the Spirit God. It is also a special kind of raw material. However, Gladys is unwilling to share more details about the World Tree. Zhao Chun can only try to learn about it later through contacts with the high officials of the Holy Spirit Empire. Over there is the Elven fleet welcoming the Dragon Emperor. Gladys points to the distant Elven fleet and explains. Then, she receives a message. She immediately looks at Zhao Chun. Your Majesty, I just received a communication from our Elven King. It is from the 2 Elven Kings responsible for welcoming you. They are among that Elven fleet. The Elven King wants to have a communication meeting with you. Gladys asks for Zhao Chun's opinion. She quickly begins to prepare, and soon 2 holographic figures appear before Zhao Chun. 1 man and 1 woman, both elves. The man has green hair and wears clothes made of woven plants. He is very handsome, with a mature yet elegant look. The woman has flowing red hair and a different kind of noble aura from typical elves. Her eyes are also red. At this moment, she is curiously looking up and down at Zhao Chun, ignoring their identities and the special meeting setting. I'll introduce them. This is the invited guest from the Dragon Empire, the Dragon Emperor of the Dragon Empire, here to visit our Holy Spirit Empire. These two are among the 5 highest elven kings of our Holy Spirit Empire. The Jade Elf King, Mansfield Jade. The green-haired Jade Elf King nods slightly, with a proud and aloof expression in his eyes. This is the Flame Elf King, Shaloman Flame. Hello. The Flame Spirit King Saruman smiled and greeted Zhao Chen politely. Both parties were sizing each other up. The Flame Spirit King Saruman looked at Zhao Chen with curiosity, boldly and openly examining him from head to toe. This elf was different from Gladys. She had red hair and matching eyes, and her figure was very attractive. She wore a tight red tactical suit that highlighted her impressive body. If elves are naturally elegant, this elf queen was a mix of elegance and boldness, like a fiery rose with thorns. Meanwhile, the Emerald Spirit King Mansfield had a more composed presence, with green hair and clothing made of woven plants, giving the impression of someone emerging from the mountains. His skin was unnaturally pale, and his eyes carried a calm, yet proud expression. It seemed he didn't care about Zhao Chen's identity at all. According to the message Gladys sent earlier, "You just fought a battle with the Black Legion fleet?" Saruman asked eagerly, directly addressing him without any formality, "Using you." This surprised Gladys, and even Mansfield frowned slightly as he looked at his fellow elf. But he knew Saruman's temper well. Even if he warned her to mind her manners during interstellar diplomatic talks, she probably ignored it. This was about a year ago. How did the fight go? Were there any casualties? Saruman immediately inquired. It was clear that this Flame Spirit King was passionate about war, matching her fierce appearance and aura. But now wasn't the time to discuss that. "Don't forget our main goal for this trip," Mansfield, the Emerald Spirit King, reminded her gently. "If I didn't remind him, I think this guy would keep talking forever. He is very straightforward. I can tell what kind of temper he has. He is a very aggressive person, not at all like a noble elf." "That's true. Let's find some time later to talk more." Shaloman Flame Elf King thought for a moment, realizing it might not be appropriate to discuss these things now. But he still looked at Zhao Chen, waiting for the agreed-upon plans. Mansfield Jade Elf King originally didn't want to waste time talking to this outsider from another universe. He didn't even want to participate in welcoming such guests before. He genuinely disliked other interstellar races. Not just those from other universes. Within their own universe, he disliked all races except elves. But right now, if he didn't follow the procedure and relied on Shaloman, it might take a long time to finish the welcoming ceremony. To end this process quickly, he had to do it himself. Mansfield Jade Elf King forced himself to look at Zhao Chen and said, "Your Majesty, the Dragon Emperor. On behalf of our Holy Elf Empire, I welcome your visit. Next, my fleet and Shaloman's fleet will escort you to our capital star, where 5 of our elf kings and the High Council will meet with you to discuss cooperation and alliances. Once again, I warmly welcome you on behalf of the Holy Elf Empire." After that, they exchanged a few more words. This Mansfield Jade Elf King quickly ended the video call. Zhao Chen could tell that although Mansfield finished the formalities, he spoke in a monotone, with no change in expression or emotion. It was as if he was just completing a task, reciting a script. He showed no emotional response to Zhao Chen at all. This is a very proud and arrogant person. Zhao Chen gave his opinion about him. Before this, Zhao Chen had some mental preparation for the Holy Spirit Empire. He knew that these elves might be similar to the angel race he had just started to get to know. If all the other elf kings are like this Jade Elf King in personality, and the High Council is also like this, then this meeting will be very troublesome. On the other hand, the Flame Elf King is a good person to approach. Maybe she is the key to breaking through in the Holy Spirit Empire. After the first meeting with the leaders of the Holy Spirit Empire, Zhao Chen led his 30,000 starships, under the command of the 2 Elf Kings' fleets, toward the star gate of the nearest galaxy. "It seems your Jade Elf King is in a hurry," Zhao Chen said with a smile, looking at Gladys beside him, implying something. Gladys paused. Actually, she didn't feel anything unusual earlier. Perhaps this is just how the Jade Elf King usually behaves, and everyone is used to it. Now, Gladys explained, "Your Majesty, please don't mind. Our Jade Elf King is like this normally. Besides the elf race, he has no interest in any other interstellar races. Even in front of high elves, he doesn't say much. He cares more about the ecology and plants on those planets. Even among us elves, people think he is somewhat obsessive in certain areas." Her words, perhaps to soothe Zhao Chen's mood, were very gentle, showing respect for the Elf King. An Elf King interested in plants? Zhao Qian was a bit surprised. He hadn't expected this. Your Majesty, please don't underestimate plants, especially in front of the Emerald Spirit King, otherwise he would not look pleased. In terms of plant-based technology, the Emerald Spirit King is one of the best in our Holy Spirit Empire. Currently, under the arrangement of the Emerald Spirit King, more than 1/5 of the energy supply in the Holy Spirit Empire comes from plant energy. This technology was developed by the Emerald Spirit King himself. That is why, although the Emerald Spirit King has a bad temper, no one dares to cause trouble for him. Plant energy technology. Zhao Qian was a bit surprised. Regarding plant-based energy technology, the Xianglong Empire also has some research in this area, but it is mostly obscure. It is probably only known at a theoretical level. In the Holy Spirit Empire, they can rely on plant energy to supply 1/5 of their energy needs. Don't underestimate this 1/5. Some might think it's not a lot. But remember, the Holy Spirit Empire controls an interstellar universe and is a Tier 6 technological civilization. This means it is very large, not only in military power, but also in daily life, with huge energy demands every day. Being able to replace 1/5 with plant energy is a very large figure. The main reason is that plant energy is a sustainable, renewable energy source with very low pollution. This means that as long as a plant energy ecosystem is established and no galaxy-level disasters occur, it can produce energy continuously. This is similar to the large-scale construction of the Tier 6 Dyson sphere in the Xianglong Empire. However, the Tier 6 Dyson sphere has higher energy collection efficiency, but also higher construction costs. Both have their advantages and disadvantages. For an interstellar empire, using cheap, long-term energy sources is essential for development. This is related to the future growth limits of the empire. In this regard, the future plan of the Dragon Empire is to ensure that, with Dyson sphere energy, at least 80% of the empire's energy needs are met. Although there is still a long way to go to reach this goal, under Lilith's arrangements, the project has been ongoing. They are working hard toward this goal. Your Emerald Spirit King is really impressive. I hope in the future, I can have in-depth discussions with him about technology, Zhao Qian said with a gentle smile. Maybe it's better not to, Gladys replied with a bitter smile. The Emerald Spirit King is quite stubborn about this. Honestly, I really don't like being alone with him. What about the Flame Spirit King? Zhao Qian asked. Her personality is quite good, but, among the higher-ups, she might not fit in well, Gladys said with a subtle look in her eyes. Is it because she's aggressive? Zhao Qian asked instinctively. Gladys nodded helplessly. That's not really a secret. Our Holy Spirit Empire is actually a peaceful interstellar civilization that doesn't like war. We wouldn't even build fleets if it weren't for the need to protect ourselves and prevent possible wars. We have advanced technology for intergalactic travel, but have never launched invasions into other universes, which shows our peaceful stance. However, the Flame Spirit King is an exception. She belongs to the Fire Spirit race. Among many elf races, the Fire Spirits are known for their bold and combative nature, but no one is as remarkable as the Flame Spirit King. Her combat talent far surpasses that of all other elves, which is why she can hold the position of Spirit King despite her personality differences with others. Currently, she also serves as the highest marshal of the Holy Spirit Empire, with the authority to command most of the Empire's fleet forces, having the greatest military power. In recent years, some of the battles have been led by the Flame Spirit King, and they have achieved good results. Have you fought in wars? Zhao Qian asked, surprised. Of course, Gladys replied with a light laugh. Although we love peace, sometimes wars are unavoidable for us. That's also one reason we maintain a military force. For example, when a civilization from the universe contacts us and is invaded by a devouring civilization, they seek our help. Honestly, we can't usually stop the invasion of the devouring civilization, but we do our best. We send our Imperial fleet to support and protect those who need to evacuate. Over the years, our Holy Spirit Empire has also generously accepted many refugees from destroyed civilizations. These military actions have always been led by the Flame Spirit King. Zhao Qian nodded thoughtfully. He looked at Gladys and said, "You say you can't stop the devouring civilizations, but your military strength should be stronger than theirs. As long as the Order doesn't intervene, fighting them shouldn't be a problem for you. Gladys paused and whispered, "You're right. We might not win, but we could at least hold a 50-50 chance. However, would you risk your home planet for another interstellar civilization?" It seems that this decision was made by the Elven Kings and the High Council. They would provide some aid to these civilizations, but wouldn't fully go to war with the devouring civilizations. The leaders of the Holy Spirit Empire are afraid of the devouring civilization and the order behind it. But in this matter, the Flame Spirit King actually advocates for action, Zhaochen said. The higher-ups have discussed with the High Council several times, and they believe that if things continue this way, the Holy Spirit Empire is slowly heading toward death. Seeing the surrounding interstellar civilizations and worlds being destroyed, the existence that once seemed like a potential ally is disappearing one by one. Sooner or later, the devouring civilization will target the Sacred Elf Empire. When that time comes, this war will inevitably happen. Rather than waiting passively and letting my homeland become a battlefield, I prefer to keep the enemy outside our borders. However, as you can see, it's clear that the Flame Elf King's suggestion was not accepted. Gladys shrugged helplessly. Zhao Qin's mind was suddenly brightened. From these details, it seems that the Flame Elf King might really be someone we can try to ally with. I've become quite curious about this Flame Elf King. I also promised to have a good talk with him when I had the chance. I wonder if you could arrange that for us. Zhao Qin looked at Gladys. Currently, Gladys appears to be Zhao Qin's guide, staying on his spaceship and accompanying him. In fact, her real task might also include constantly monitoring Zhao Qin. She is responsible for Zhao Qin's actions within the Sacred Elf Empire. So, whether Zhao Qin can meet the Flame Elf King depends on Gladys's arrangements. Although this situation is uncomfortable, since it's on someone else's territory, it's important to follow the rules properly. Gladys hesitated for a moment and said, "I don't know the Flame Elf King's schedule, but I will report this matter, and if there's an arrangement, I will inform His Majesty as soon as possible." "Thank you." Zhao Qin expressed his gratitude. And then, this marked the beginning of his first journey in this strange universe. Throughout the journey, Zhao Qin kept appreciating what he saw in this universe. Although it was mostly stars, planets, and asteroid belts, once he entered areas with habitable planets, he realized that the atmosphere here was completely different from that of the Dragon Empire. There is a unique atmosphere here. On most planets in this area, except for gas giants, almost all planets larger than a certain size have green surfaces. They have even developed some plants that can survive in space. These space plants are used for decoration. For example, Zhao Qin saw a space city surrounded mostly by green plants, with many flowers of different sizes. Some flowers are so large that their diameter is about 1 kilometer. If someone is afraid of large objects, they might feel a chill when seeing these plants. Besides that, interstellar facilities like stargates and spaceports also have this kind of decorative style. It feels like, in this Sacred Elf Empire, the universe isn't dull or lifeless. Instead, it gives the impression of living in harmony with nature, full of vitality. Even in the dark universe, people don't feel oppressed. These plants can even be seen on starships. Some interstellar warships might be made entirely of these plants, so much so that Zhao Qin suspects they are built completely from plant materials. He asked Gladys about this. Gladys explained that some starships are indeed made entirely from these special plants. For example, in the Sacred Elf Empire, almost all T1 and T2 level starships are built from plants. As the ships get bigger and more advanced, the proportion of plant material decreases. But these plants are not simple, they are specially cultivated. One type is called Interstellar Moss 031, which is now mainly used as the main material for building T1 starships and small shuttles. You just need to set a model, then let this interstellar moss grow inside it, and wait for some time. The model features a T1 level interstellar battleship. Afterward, you only need to grow different plants inside this battleship. For example, energy-producing plants, plants that can support the ship's engines, and plants that can emit laser-like beams. Eventually, these plants are combined into a single whole. This results in a completely plant-based interstellar battleship built with plant material technology. Don't underestimate these special battleships. Their advantages are low construction costs and the ability to repair themselves after damage. They do have longer build times, weaker defenses, and moderate weapons. But compared to these disadvantages, the benefits outweigh them, and the flaws can be ignored. This technology allows almost everyone in the Holy Spirit Empire to own a T1 or even T2 level interstellar battleship. Interstellar travel is very common in the Holy Spirit Empire. Some elves who seek freedom even build mobile interstellar ships, hoping to live on them forever. Because low-level battleships consume little energy and plant-based ships naturally have advantages in ecological cultivation. Therefore, theoretically, T1 and T2 battleships can operate indefinitely without returning to port. This cultural shift has reduced internal conflicts within the Holy Spirit Empire, making people more focused on spiritual needs. How do you think about the Holy Spirit Empire? Zhao Chun asked Marshal Red-Eyed, who was on the video call. Marshal Red-Eyed was visiting the Holy Spirit Empire with Zhao Chun. She was also instructed to observe everything carefully. Besides Lulu, who commands the Imperial Guard fleet, she is the highest-ranking Red-Eyed officer here. So, Zhao Chun discussed this matter privately with Marshal Red-Eyed. Right now, Zhao Chun is sitting in his personal bedroom office. Gladys naturally did not have a reason to accompany him. Marshal Red-Eye slowly said, "Based on the information we currently have and the materials you just sent me about the Holy Spirit Empire, I believe that the Holy Spirit Empire has a class system. The highest are the high-level elves, followed by various other elf tribes. And at the bottom are other interstellar races, including those who fled into the Holy Spirit Empire during the destruction of their civilizations. However, although there is a class system, the elves do not oppress other interstellar races. They simply look down on them sincerely. For example, they won't eat crops grown by other races, nor do they want to dine in the same restaurant with them. They also won't deliberately bully these races. The reason is that they see violence as crude behavior. Moreover, when they do fight with these races, they see it as if they are fighting someone who has come out of a cesspit. It just disgusts them." Zhao Chun chuckled a little at Marshal Red-Eye's metaphor. But it really fits the current situation of the Holy Spirit Empire. This is why, although the elves rule, there isn't much internal conflict within the empire. The other races are willing to keep things as they are. On one hand, it's because the elves are strong. On the other hand, the elves won't take over their planets. It's like trying to steal a bed from someone who just came out of a cesspit. Unless they have something very valuable. Most of the time, there's nothing worth fighting over. Also, the elves are not stingy with their lower-level technology. From what we know, food technology in this universe is very advanced. Even when the elves waste resources, it's understandable. As the saying goes, the higher-ups eat meat, and you can have some soup. These other interstellar races that follow the elf tribe can survive just by drinking this soup. Therefore, the quality of life here means that those interstellar races don't have to worry about food and drink. As a result, there is no chance for internal conflicts to break out. I have thought of these points as well. At this moment, Marshal Red-Eye's brow furrowed slightly, and he quickly changed the topic, saying, "But this kind of living environment is both good and bad. First, it's too peaceful here. The peace has made even eagles lose their desire to soar." Zhao Chun squinted, understanding what Red-Eyed meant. Although the Holy Spirit Empire now has T6 technology level, look at those interstellar warships, and then look at the aura of those elf soldiers. Those elf soldiers might be qualified interstellar soldiers, but they are definitely not excellent warriors. I don't feel any desire for war from them. Their eyes lack killing intent. A fleet of starships without a desire to fight, even with advanced interstellar ship technology, can defeat weaker enemies. But they cannot defeat enemies of equal strength, let alone stronger ones. And a star empire's fleet that has no desire to fight, that empire will be on the brink of collapse. Red-Eyed shared his view. Zhao Chun nodded, "You're right. But it's not entirely accurate. Maybe it's because you haven't interacted much with the high-level elves. I once met a queen elf who had that commanding presence you mentioned. Having such a leader, although I can't guarantee the entire Holy Spirit Empire has her spirit, at least the star fleet she commands for a long time will gradually be influenced by her. And I believe that since this elf queen understands this, she will definitely train commanders like herself to lead her fleet. As the saying goes, one brave soldier can lead a whole troop." Red-Eyed nodded slightly. "Your Majesty, what you said is indeed reasonable. If it were a country with more obvious power, there might really be big changes. But for now, in this sacred elf empire, which has 5 elf kings and a high council. I don't think the authority of a single elf king is enough to change the entire situation of the empire. Let's not discuss this for now. Later, I will find a way to get some combat data and information about the standard interstellar battleships used by the current army of the Sacred Elf Empire. When the time comes, you can quietly analyze it and quickly produce a detailed report on the Empire's starships. Also, prepare some backup plans in advance, Zhao Chun said with a meaningful look at Red-Eyed. Red-Eyed nodded, understanding the meaning behind the Emperor's words. Having malicious intentions is bad, but being cautious is necessary, especially with such a powerful neighbor. It's natural to prepare thoroughly in all aspects. Have a series of plans ready to handle any possible situation. Zhao Chun always believed that some preparations might never be used in a lifetime and could gather dust in the corner, but having no preparations at all is dangerous. He had countless copies of such plans, especially with Lilith and Charlotte, who also prepared many. Prevention before problems arise. That's Zhao Chun's principle. After ending the communication with Red-Eyed, Zhao Chun looked at several documents related to various aspects of the Sacred Elf Empire. He had previously sent a copy of these to Red-Eyed, which is why she could give her opinions and ideas. These documents were obtained by Zhao Chun through hacking into the universe's communication network using his technical skills. As for the information provided by Gladys, Zhao Chun naturally couldn't believe it all. However, most of the information obtained from the internet is just rumors. It is very difficult to get accurate details about the core of the Holy Spirit Empire from these sources. At this moment, Zhao Chun received a communication from the bridge. On the video screen was Xiong Lulu. Your Majesty, Lady Gladys asked me to pass along a message. We have now passed through the Star Gate and reached the outer region of the Holy Spirit Empire's capital star system. In about 10 hours, we will arrive at the outer area of the capital star system. Lady Gladys wants to confirm the detailed plans for your visit to the Holy Spirit Empire in person, Xiong Lulu said. Zhao Chun nodded. I understand. I am about to go to the bridge. Tell Lady Gladys to wait a moment. The communication ended, and Zhao Chun stood up. Soon after, he appeared on the bridge. Emperor Xiong, Gladys said. During their time together, she had developed some respect for the emperor and spoke more humbly. Tell me about our next steps. Zhao Chun sat down and looked at Gladys with a smile. Gladys immediately raised her hand, and an electronic document appeared before her. Today, we will arrive at the capital star system. Then, we will go directly to the core of the star system. According to the plan, you and your fleet will stay briefly outside the capital star system. Your fleet will remain outside the star system. You will board our starship to enter the capital star system, Gladys explained. Next, Xiong Lulu, who had been listening, stepped forward and said, This won't do. Our emperor has traveled a long way, and now he has to ride your starship just to enter your capital star system. Is this how you welcome guests? Gladys looked troubled and said, Actually, I have also suggested this to the High Council, and we are still discussing it. My fleet can stay outside the star system. However, my personal guard fleet must accompany me, Zhao Chun said calmly. This was clearly the other side's attempt to show off and intimidate the distant Dragon Emperor. Zhao Chun naturally wouldn't let them succeed. But bringing 30,000 starships into the enemy's capital star system was indeed inappropriate. So, Zhao Chun only requested to bring the Emperor's personal guard fleet. This showed Zhao Chun's attitude. I can make a concession, but only this one. Whether you have the face to accept it is up to you. Gladys looked a little hesitant, but inside, she felt a bit relieved. This kind of request, Gladys thought she could accept. He is the Dragon Emperor, the ruler of an interstellar civilization. He just met you and is willing to come in person, which shows his trust in you. And as an emperor, having 3,000 Imperial Guard ships is not too much, right? At least, the 30,000 Dragon Legion ships stayed outside. That was enough to show respect. I will try to discuss this with the High Council, Zhao Chun said. Zhao Chun didn't speak, but he seemed to agree with Gladys's suggestion. Let's confirm the next steps. At that time, you will enter the core area of the capital star system and finally dock at the outer starport of the capital. During the docking, a special ceremonial fleet will hold a welcome ceremony. The whole process will be publicly announced within the Holy Spirit Empire. Afterward, you will board the largest starport in our Holy Spirit Empire, where 2 or 3 elven kings will greet you. These elven kings will accompany you to rest briefly at the starport, then take a special interstellar elevator into the heart of our capital star. Finally, you will meet with our 5 elven kings and high counselors at the imperial city of the capital star. A grand welcome dinner will also be held. After the dinner, you will rest at a designated location for one night. The next day, we will begin discussions on the matters we need to talk about. The timing is flexible, and the details will be confirmed by both sides during the first evening. There are no major issues with Gladys's upcoming schedule. Zhao Chen nodded understandingly. May I ask how many personnel we can arrange to protect His Majesty the Emperor? The leopard woman suddenly asked. During this time, Gladys learned that this half-beast woman, the commander of the Imperial Guard of the Xiongling Empire, is responsible for the safety of the Emperor. There is no limit on the number of people entering the starport. However, for those taking the interstellar elevator into the capital star, it is recommended not to exceed 300 people. As for those attending the banquet, it is suggested not to exceed 30 people. Of course, if the Emperor has any special requests, we can discuss them. Gladys looked at Zhao Chen. While there are some restrictions on personnel, they are not a big problem. The leopard woman did not speak. This personnel limit is acceptable. Besides the need for you to discuss the first point with your superior, I have no other objections, Zhao Chen said calmly. All right, I will finalize the last schedule now, Gladys said, and immediately went to a small room nearby arranged for her to contact her superiors. Soon after, Gladys hurried back. She had a relaxed expression, indicating the negotiations went well. I have confirmed with the High Council. Your Imperial Guard fleet can enter the Imperial City Star System, but only along designated routes and cannot deviate. Once approaching the Imperial City Star, apart from your flagship and 30 escort starships, all other interstellar warships must dock at a nearby outer star anchorage, some distance from the Imperial City Star. The 30 escort ships were parked outside the starport at designated docking stations, while only your flagship could enter the internal docking area. Gladys finished explaining the situation. Zhao Chen nodded happily and said, "All right, let's proceed as you suggested. Thank you for your understanding, Your Majesty. I promise your visit to the Holy Elf Empire will be a wonderful experience. On behalf of the Holy Elf Empire, I warmly welcome your journey here," Gladys said with a smile before turning to leave and begin the final preparations, ensuring everything would go smoothly. Meanwhile, Zhao Chun was also finalizing the personnel for this visit to the Holy Elf Empire. "Your Majesty, I will go with you," Marshal Qi Tong said proactively from the video window. Zhao Chen looked at him and firmly declined. "This meeting was not planned for you to accompany me. You just need to lead your Storm Blizzard fleet and stay ready at all times." "What about me?" Lulu asked expectantly. "You don't need to come with me. You will be responsible for the Imperial Guard fleet and stay on standby," Zhao Chun replied seriously. "Having good intentions is important, but being cautious is necessary. Although the chances of something going wrong are low, we must be prepared. So, who will accompany you to the capital of the Holy Elf Empire?" Qi Tong asked. "Leopard Girl will bring a guard team to ensure my safety. Also, before departure, Lilith prepared a visiting team for me. I will take them along," Zhao Chen explained. "Leave the diplomatic matters to them. You just need to stay focused on your duties." This time, Zhao Chun was well prepared. Although Lilith couldn't come, she had made all the necessary arrangements for him. "Everyone, get ready. This will be our first formal contact between the Dragon Empire and other cosmic civilizations. Don't embarrass our empire," Zhao Chen said. The Imperial fleet of the fierce Dragon Empire had completed all arrangements for visiting the Holy Spirit Empire. Basically, once they entered the capital star region of the Holy Spirit Empire, the visiting fleet's path was carefully planned in advance. The journey was smooth, and they hardly saw any starship battleships along the way. It seemed everything was prepared beforehand. Soon, the visiting fleet from the fierce Dragon Empire was about to enter the capital star system. At this point, the fleet's speed gradually slowed down. The large fleet of the fierce Dragon Empire also split into 2 groups here. 30,000 starships from the Blizzard Squadron, along with Marshal Red Eye, anchored outside the capital star system. There, many transport ships and supply ships were already docked, along with a few small spaceports. It looked like this was a special space anchorage prepared for visiting fleets from outside. The Blizzard Squadron stayed there. Gladys also conveyed that the Holy Spirit Empire would provide free resource supplies to the visiting starships from the Fierce Dragon Empire, and if needed, they could also be maintained. Zhao Chen agreed to this, accepting strategic supplies, but only for transfer to the logistics starships accompanying the fleet, which would then supply the starships of the Blizzard Squadron. Although this added some steps and was a bit more complicated, it was necessary because they were not in the Fierce Dragon Empire, and everything had to be done carefully. All resources had to be checked by staff on the supply ships before being transported to the starships. Currently, there was no need to use resources from the Holy Spirit Empire. The plan was to first supply the starships carrying supplies to the Fierce Dragon fleet, then replenish the Holy Spirit Empire's supplies onto the supply ships for future use. Regarding the so-called maintenance, of course, I refuse. This idea is obviously driven by selfish motives. It's just a way to learn more about the data of the Starship Dragon series. Not only Zhao Chun is interested in these Sacred Elf Empire starships, but the high officials of the Sacred Elf Empire are also very curious about them. After seeing the appearance of these starships, their interest grew even more. Many of these starships match their aesthetic preferences perfectly. For example, right now, around that starport, Zhao Chun can easily imagine countless high-definition space cameras filming and observing the Dragon series starships. However, he cannot board the ships. Later, the fleet within the Sacred Elf Empire's capital star system was reduced to just over 3,000 ships, aside from the 3,000 Imperial Guard fleet ships they had previously agreed upon. The fleets of the two elf kings who came with him only had about 600 starships in total, entering this star system. This shows how special this capital star system is for the elf kings. Zhao Chun is now admiring the star system before him. He must admit, this star system is truly unique. If he didn't know about the special plant technology of the Sacred Elf Empire, he might think he had entered a fantasy world. Here, you can see all kinds of huge plants. For example, some planets grow towering trees connected to satellites outside the planet, forming snowflake shapes that are quite beautiful. The most eye-catching sight is a miraculous scene in the distance, which made Zhao Chun stand up in surprise. Even Lulu the bear was stunned, rubbing her eyes in disbelief. Wow, was I seeing things? In the distance, a giant tree stood tall in space. Just how big was it? Zhao Chun couldn't find any words to describe it. All he could say was that even a supergiant planet looked like a small apple growing on a tree in comparison. And this giant tree was very dazzling, because on its canopy, 9 bright stars could be seen. And they were exactly 9 stars. A galaxy might have multiple stars, but Zhao Chun had never seen 9 stars so close together in a small galaxy before. It's important to know that stars can influence each other. A small mistake could cause a disaster in a galaxy. But these 9 stars peacefully coexist here. The only possible explanation is that this is the World Tree. It is also called many names, said Grace, looking at the World Tree with admiration. It was as if she was gazing at a divine being in her heart. I heard before that you can rely on this World Tree to build top-level interstellar ships. Zhao Chun looked at Grace. At first, he might have doubted it, but now, seeing such a miraculous thing with his own eyes, he had no doubt about the power of this World Tree. It can support 9 stars, which seem to be nourishing the giant tree. Such a being is definitely extraordinary. There is such a saying, but I am not an expert in this area, so I don't know the details, Grace replied vaguely. It seemed this was a secret of the Holy Spirit Empire. Zhao Chun didn't ask further and took the opportunity to change the subject. The terms capital star system and capital star region are just common names. They are widely used in other civilizations across the universe. However, among our own people, we often call this star region the life star region, because it is truly full of life. This is a fact. The life star region is the most lively area within our sacred spirit empire, and there is no doubt about that. The capital star system is called the Sacred Tree Star System, because it is home to the greatest sacred tree of our empire. These names are easy to understand and fit well with the style of our sacred spirit empire. Our capital star is called the Moon Goddess Star, Gladys explained. Zhao Chun and Lulu, who was beside him, both looked surprised. Lulu asked curiously, I can understand the names Life Star Region and Sacred Tree Star System, but why is your capital star called the Moon Goddess Star? Zhao Chun also looked at Gladys with doubt. Gladys's expression was normal, as if such questions were quite common. This is actually related to the history of the elves. Legend says that long ago, when the elves first entered the interstellar age, we came from a place called the moon goddess star. It was the first planet our ancestors named. As for why it was called the moon goddess, you already know that we worship the elf god. In our legends, the elf god and the moon goddess are the same being. In our stories, the sun represents life, but the moon also symbolizes elegance and freedom because all plants quietly grow at night. Zhao Chen suddenly understood. The moon goddess Gladys mentioned is actually a translation. In the elf language, there is another, more complex name for it. Gladys learned about the culture of the Howling Dragon Empire and used the term moon goddess. In most planets of the Howling Dragon Empire, they call their satellites moons. The Holy Spirit Empire also has a similar word with the same meaning. Both are connected. That's a beautiful name, Xiong Lulu sighed. Not only is the name beautiful, but its appearance is also the most beautiful among all the planets I have seen. Once you see it, you will definitely be fascinated by it, Gladys said confidently. Hearing this, Zhao Chun and Xiong Lulu both looked excited, full of anticipation. They were waiting to see the true face of the moon goddess star. The interstellar fleet gradually slowed down. What normally would take 10 minutes to travel could now take nearly half an hour. Near the moon goddess star, most of the Imperial Guard ships and the accompanying Elven King fleet ships were anchored in the outer star anchorage, guided by the lead ship. The fleet Zhao Chun was in suddenly lost 30 ships. However, all 30 ships were T6 class interstellar ships. These 30 ships, along with the star ships of the two Elven Kings, moved through the open space of the route. On both sides, some ships with very ornate paintwork hovered. Then, light projections appeared, creating colorful shadows on the route, making it look stunningly beautiful. This was the welcoming ceremony prepared by the Holy Spirit Empire for Zhao Chun, the Howling Dragon Emperor. Next, they headed toward the satellite port. This was the most luxurious starport in the Holy Spirit Empire and the only port connecting to the moon goddess star. Its uniqueness was clear. Under guidance, each ship of the Howling Dragon Empire was led to its designated starport berth. Zhao Chen's flagship was naturally assigned to a special interstellar docking bay. This docking bay looked different from others at the space station. It was not just a simple place to park a starship. Gladys explained that this was a special dock used to welcome important guests. Even the Elf King's flagship would not normally dock here. In the past, the guests received here were always visiting fleets from other civilizations. It had been over 100 years since this dock was last used. Through the window, Zhao Chen saw the two Elf King's ships parked nearby. These ships were easy to recognize. One was painted green with plant patterns, clearly the Jade Elf King's ship. The other was painted red, with some plant designs, but also weapons wrapped in red thorns, like a bow with red vines. It looked elegant, but also powerful. This was the Flame Elf King's ship. Zhao Chun and Gladys had learned about these ships. They found some information on the universe's network. These ships were nearly T7 level, very rare. They were called Shadow of the Moon God Heavy Star battleships. The Elf King's ships were modified versions of this model, customized for each king's needs. They changed not only the appearance, but also some internal modules. There is no exact number of these ships. Some say there are only about 10. Others believe the Holy Elf Empire has over 100 of these ships. The data is uncertain. But most likely, this type of starship is the strongest in the Holy Elf Empire right now. I wonder if I will have the chance to board this interstellar battleship and see it up close. Report, the starship has finished docking. We are currently connecting the gangway, Lulu reported nearby. Gladys immediately looked at Zhao Chun. Prepare to board the ship. After that, Miss Gladys will handle the arrangements, Zhao Chun said, looking at her. Gladys quickly replied, Please rest assured, Your Majesty. Everything has been arranged. We guarantee you will have a good journey. Okay, Zhao Chun nodded, then glanced at Lulu. The fleet matters are up to you. Contact me if there's anything important. Yes, Lulu responded. Zhao Chun turned and headed toward the bridge entrance, followed quickly by some prepared staff members. The leopard girl, along with a few guards, stood behind Zhao Chun, and there were also diplomatic staff dressed in military-style uniforms following behind. These people made up Zhao Chun's diplomatic delegation. Gladys led Zhao Chun along the way, occasionally explaining some features of the moon goddess planet. Soon, they arrived at the gangway in front of the starship's docking station. The entire gangway was arranged very naturally and elegantly, even decorated with real flowers, not just for show. Please, Gladys led the way in front of Zhao Chun. They walked slowly along the corridor. The corridor was very long, nearly several hundred meters. But in the middle of the corridor, there was a floating platform that allowed standing on it to move toward the other side. From a distance, Zhao Chun could see the welcoming crowd on the opposite platform. Looking closely, there were at least 1,000 people welcoming them. It was clear that the Holy Spirit Empire, despite its proud nature, valued the visit of the Xiongling Empire delegation very highly. Soon, Zhao Chun and his group passed through the entire corridor. As Zhao Chun stepped down the corridor stairs, a certain type of music began to sound around him. Small creatures, similar to fireflies or butterflies, fluttered in the air, dancing along with the music. Honestly, this scene had a natural beauty to it. Soon, singing also filled the air, not recorded music, but live singing. On both sides of the welcoming team, there were fairy-like beings, resembling a choir, singing together. Zhao Chun had heard before that, among the elves, they love nature and plants, are proud, and value spiritual things like music. Music holds a very special place among the elves. In important events, various kinds of music are played. At this moment, several elves dressed in different styles of clothing approached Zhao Chun slowly. Gladys stepped back slightly and lowered her head a little. It was clear that these people were important. Among them, Zhao Chun recognized some. There was the indifferent-looking Emerald Elf King, Mansfield. There was the fiery Elf King, Shaloman, with red eyes full of curiosity and energy. Since Zhao Chun arrived here, Shaloman had been watching him closely. If it weren't for this special occasion, she probably would have come over to ask him many curious questions. There were also 3 other elves who seemed very noble. When these 5 stood in front of Zhao Chun, one of the oldest-looking elves stepped forward, bowed politely, and said with a smile, "Honorable Emperor of the Owl Dragon Empire, welcome. I am Gustav, the Light Elf King of the Holy Elf Empire." Zhao Chun also smiled and responded with the etiquette of the Owl Dragon Empire. "It's a great honor to visit your country," Zhao Chun said with a smile. Regarding the Light Radiant Spirit King, Zhao Chun naturally learned about him while researching the Holy Spirit Empire's information. The Light Radiant Spirit King is not the strongest or highest among the 5 Spirit Kings, but he is definitely the most respected. This is because he comes from the Light Elf clan. Currently, the strength of the Light Elf clan is uncertain, but no one dares to show disrespect to them. Back when the elves were only on the moon goddess star, it was the Light Elf clan that led them into the interstellar age. The first interstellar spaceship was developed and built by scientists from the Light Elf clan. When the Holy Spirit Empire was founded, the first to recognize the Elf King's authority was the Light Elf King. Since then, the status of the Light Elf clan has been firmly established within the empire. Although other Elf Kings may change among different clans over time, the seat of the Light Elf clan has always remained. The current Light Radiant Spirit King is the oldest among the 5 kings and thus holds the highest prestige. He is also responsible for welcoming Emperor Xiaolong. It is said that, at his request, the Jade Elf King was willing to join the Flame Elf King in greeting the Xiaolong fleet. Only the Light Radiant Spirit King can command the Jade Elf King like this. He turned to point at the 4 people beside him. "Your Majesty Emperor Xiaolong, let me introduce you. These 2 you have already met, the Jade Elf King, Mansfield, and the Flame Elf King, Shaloman. They are representatives of the High Council, Andrew and Calamoni." The 4 looked at Zhao Chun and bowed in turn. I also learned some information about these 2 High Council members. The High Council is the organization that discusses empire affairs in the Holy Spirit Empire, usually with about 60 members. Usually, the representatives of each elf clan are present. Among these 60 or so people, the leaders of some major clans naturally become the prominent figures in the High Council. The 2 individuals in front of us are such leaders. One is from the Earth Elf clan, and the other from the Wind Elf clan. Both of these elf clans are major families within the Holy Elf Empire. You have traveled a long way this time. It must have been tiring. Although the banquet is scheduled for tomorrow, we have prepared a welcome feast for you now, said the Light Radiance Elf King with a smile. As an elder, he was very kind to Zhao Chun. Zhao Chen naturally saw no reason to refuse this invitation and agreed. Later, under the guidance of these high-ranking officials of the Holy Elf Empire, Zhao Chun entered the moon satellite port. This welcoming banquet was held at the most luxurious restaurant in the starport. After the meal, they took an interstellar elevator to reach the moon goddess planet. Many of the foods served at the banquet were unfamiliar to Zhao Chun, mostly vegetarian. However, there were a few meat dishes in front of him. They probably prepared these considering Zhao Chun's different dietary habits. Zhao Chun had never tried these foods before, so he felt a bit curious. But it was just curiosity. The flavors were not as good as the ingredients from the Howling Dragon Empire. Even the fruits and vegetables. Perhaps because the ingredients Zhao Chun ate were cultivated using the T6 Purple Gold Eden level starship, which far surpasses these. If he could bring back the seeds of these special fruits and vegetables from the Holy Elf Empire and grow them using the cultivation environment and technology of the Purple Gold Eden starship, Zhao Chun was confident he could produce top-quality produce of this kind. At this moment, an idea came to Zhao Chun. The elves of the Holy Elf Empire mainly eat fruits and vegetables, especially the high-level elves, who often take pride in eating the best quality fruits. Fruits are a popular item among them. If I cultivate these plants and fruits to the best quality and sell them to the noble elves of the Holy Elf Empire, it could strengthen our relationship and also earn some foreign exchange. It seems these high-level elves are quite wealthy. They are probably willing to spend a little money on their favorite foods. Thinking this way, Zhao Chun's gaze on these high-level elves became more kind and gentle. The elf kings and high-level elves couldn't help but feel a bit strange. Why does this emperor of the Xiaolong Empire look at them in such a strange way? Could it be some kind of habit? Do they like to look at others like this during meals? Of course, Zhao Chun didn't realize that these high-level elves misunderstood his intentions. After enjoying this delicious meal, Zhao Chun and his group were truly ready to enter the Moon Goddess Star. Because the Moon Goddess Star holds a very special meaning for the elves, no flying vehicles are allowed to fly outside the atmosphere of the planet. Even flying within the planet has strict requirements. This is to keep the planet as natural and pristine as possible. Any advanced technology might change the planet's natural aura. It's a bit like extreme pilgrims, and this planet is their sacred place. Soon, Zhao Chun and his group boarded the interstellar elevator. As they admired the beautiful scenery outside the elevator's large windows, they couldn't help but think how truly beautiful this planet is, full of natural charm. Your Majesty, Emperor of the Xiaolong Empire, a soft voice came from nearby. Zhao Chun looked over and saw it was the Flame Elf King. At this moment, Zhao Chun also noticed a few others chatting nearby. They hadn't paid attention to them. As for the other groups of Xianlong envoys and the accompanying elves, they naturally stayed at a distance so as not to disturb them. Your Majesty the Flame Elf King, is there something you need? Zhao Chun looked at the Flame Elf King. Although he liked this Elf King, the setting limited their interaction, so they hadn't spoken much before. Well, I am very interested in your Xianlong Empire's interstellar battleships and your fights with the Order. When we were on the spaceship earlier, you mentioned you'd be willing to discuss this. Would it be possible to set up a time? The Flame Elf King looked at Zhao Chun with anticipation. Was this Elf King so straightforward? I also have many questions I want to discuss with your Majesty the Elf King. However, I've entrusted the schedule to Gladys. After all, this isn't the Xianlong Empire. Zhao Chun shrugged, looking helpless. The Flame Elf King waved his hand with a slight complaint. I understand. It's those old guys, so cautious. They insist that high-level talks must be completed before allowing private meetings between leaders. For now, there's no way around it. Once we finish discussing the alliance, we can talk about other things. The Flame Elf King looked at Zhao Chun. No problem. I'll be waiting any time, Zhao Chun replied with a smile. Perhaps the high-ranking elves nearby noticed the conversation between the Flame Elf King and Zhao Chun. The Flame Elf King shrugged and returned to the elf crowd. Soon, the interstellar elevator would pass through the atmosphere. The surrounding clouds and mist appeared overhead. Zhao Chun could see the interior of the Moon Goddess Star. It was very spectacular. It was somewhat like what Zhao Chun had imagined, but there were some differences. The same was that the planet was full of various plants, many of which Zhao Chun had never seen before, and they were very large. For example, Zhao Chun could see a huge tree thousands of meters tall from far away, standing in the distance. On that giant tree, many small points could be seen. Faintly, it looked like a group of cities. That is the largest city cluster on the moon goddess star, also called the moon goddess tree. From afar, it looks like a big tree, but on the tree, there are cities of different sizes built at various places. The place where we hold our meetings is on the top of the tallest branch of the moon goddess tree, in the biggest city among the clusters. It is a very beautiful city, Gladys explained to Zhao Chun. Zhao Chun nodded. He looked in other directions. Most of what he saw were either trees and plants or the ocean. It was hard to see other landforms. Because of the planet's internal modifications and the use of ecological control technology, the moon goddess star has spring-like weather all year round, with no natural disasters. Also, no industrial facilities or mining are allowed to be built on the moon goddess star. This is a kind of compensation for the planet's earlier years. At first, the elves almost exhausted all the resources on the moon goddess star to leave and explore the galaxy. Plus, the construction of various industries caused serious pollution on the planet. So, when we entered the interstellar age and joined the Holy Elf Empire, with enough technology, we started rebuilding our home. That is how the current moon goddess star came to be. Gladys looked at the scene before her with admiration. Suddenly, Zhao Chun saw some kind of flying animal rushing through the air in the distance. He focused his eyes and saw clearly what it was. It was a flying creature, very beautiful, somewhat like a mix between a bird and a dragon, with lovely feathers, but also a majestic presence. On this creature, there was also an elf standing. These elves looked like sky knights, riding these animals and soaring through the sky, performing various actions. Our elf race loves all kinds of plants and also enjoys gentle, beautiful animals. We try to tame these animals and make them our friends. The animal called the elf dragon bird is one of the most popular among us, Gladys carefully explained to Zhao Chun. It must be said that on this moon god star, natural elements are more prominent than technological ones. It's hard to believe that this is a star empire with a civilization advanced to level 6 in space technology. The interstellar elevator stopped descending. A platform appeared around it, looking like a lotus pond. Please, this way, Gladys led Zhao Chun forward. The light radiance elf king explained nearby. Because of the special nature of moon god star, there is only this one interstellar elevator here. And it's still a bit far from our moon god tree. The elevator isn't suitable for building on the moon god tree. Zhao Chun asked curiously. So, how do we get to the moon god tree? The light radiance elf king pointed at some ready-made star shuttles and large bird-like creatures nearby, saying, normally, technology-based flying devices are not allowed on moon god star. But since you are a guest from afar, the High Council has approved. You and your delegation can use the star shuttles we prepared to go to the moon god tree. Gladys prepared to lead Zhao Chun and the Dragon Eagle delegation, but Zhao Chun didn't move. He stayed in place and asked, are those others going to ride the shuttles with us? No, we will ride these bird mounts. The light radiance elf king pointed at the birds. Zhao Chun smiled slightly and said, since that's the case, I'll go along with everyone else. I'll ride these birds too. But my delegation members might not be suitable for this, so I'd appreciate it if you could take care of them and let them ride the shuttles. Huh. Gladys was momentarily stunned, looking at Zhao Chun with surprise. The other elf kings also showed similar expressions, except for the fire elf king, who appeared quite interested. Your Majesty, Lord Xiaolong Emperor, this bird mount looks gentle, but riding on it requires great physical strength. A slight mistake could cause a fall. Even among our elves, young children who haven't been trained are not allowed to ride these bird mounts. Perhaps you should consider. King Guangyao tried to persuade him. Since I have come to the Holy Elf Empire, I naturally want to experience your country's culture and scenery. How can I miss such a good opportunity? Don't worry about my safety. Let's proceed as planned, Zhao Chun said, looking at the leopard girl and others. You all take the shuttle. Without waiting for others to object, Zhao Chun walked toward the parked bird mounts in the distance. The leopard girl sighed, knowing Her Majesty's personality. Once a decision is made, it won't change. She also wanted to accompany the emperor, but since he ordered them to take the shuttle and even spoke about it, they couldn't refuse. Perhaps he was worried about their safety. As for the emperor's safety, after years of being with him, the leopard girl felt the most at ease. Not just in space, But even on this planet, there's no one who could threaten his safety. In fact, the biggest threat on this planet is the Emperor himself. Yes, Your Majesty. Please stay safe. The leopard girl bowed slightly, then turned to Gladys. Miss Gladys, I leave your safety in your hands. After speaking, she led the team toward the shuttle. This move caught the elves off guard. Isn't this a bit strange? They are completely different from the leaders of other cosmic civilizations they met before. Those leaders and emperors, let's not talk about whether they carry themselves with a high status. Just their travel safety alone means many people follow them. Whenever there is a dangerous situation, their subordinates step forward to advise caution. But this fierce dragon emperor, first of all, doesn't seem to care about appearances, and his subordinates don't seem very concerned about his safety either. However, since he has already made his decision, they seem unable to persuade him otherwise. Gladys, you follow this fierce dragon emperor. Make sure he stays safe. Remember to choose a gentle bird as his mount, the light radiance elf king reminds her. Then I will ride with the fierce dragon emperor, the flame elf king volunteers. Seeing the flame elf king volunteer, the light radiance elf king thinks for a moment and agrees, but he warns, do not ride your own mount. Choose a suitable one. Most importantly, ensure the fierce dragon emperor's safety. Finally, the light radiance elf king reminds him again. The flame elf king smirks, but agrees verbally. Then they quickly follow Zhao Chun. Are these all your mounts? Zhao Chun looks at the dozens of different mounts in front of him, showing surprise. Some mounts are very large, about the size of a small T-1 starship, like flying whales. Others are small, like winged horses, only able to carry one person. Your Majesty, the fierce dragon emperor, please follow me. If you want to try our mounts, I think this one is very suitable. It can carry up to 5 people and offers a very good riding experience, Gladys says, approaching Zhao Chun and introducing a fish-shaped mount. But this fish has feathers, and there are no seats on it. Zhao Chun was not surprised because he had seen on the interstellar elevator that those elves were standing on their mounts, not sitting. He glanced at the mount suggested by Gladys, shook his head slightly, and looked at the others. What's special about those mounts? Zhao Chun asked, pointing at several mounts lined up in the distance. They had patterns made of woven plants, similar to the fleet insignia. Those are exclusive mounts. For example, the green one that looks like a butterfly is the mount of the Jade Elf King. The pure white one, resembling a dragon, is the mount of the Light Radiance Elf King. The others nearby belong to the high-ranking council members. Exclusive mounts are usually only for their owners and are not shared, Gladys explained. Zhao Chun nodded, understanding. It's like not lending a car. These elves often have a strong sense of mental purity. Others might not know, but the Jade Elf King definitely wouldn't allow a stranger to stand on his mount. But Zhao Chun's attention was caught by a bright red mount. It was a very beautiful giant red bird, with wings spread over 100 meters long. If I had to describe it, it would be a phoenix. Even as Zhao Chun looked at it, he felt the temperature rising. Is that okay? Zhao Chun asked, pointing directly at the red giant bird. That one. That is the mount of the Flame Elf King. It might be. Gladys hesitated when she saw the mount Zhao Chun pointed to. But then a joyful voice came from nearby. Of course, no problem. Since His Majesty the Dragon Emperor chose it himself, as hosts, how could we not satisfy our guest? The Flame Elf King suddenly said from beside them. At this moment, Zhao Chun noticed that beneath the neck of the red giant bird, there was a crest made of red plants. It was hidden earlier by thick feathers, so he hadn't seen it before. Flying on this mount is too dangerous, said the Shadow Dragon Emperor, standing up to oppose. He never expected that among so many mounts, the Shadow Dragon Emperor would choose this one. The Flame Elf King looked at him with a clever gaze, as if saying, I didn't break your rules. It was the other person's choice. He couldn't really refuse. Perhaps, Your Majesty, you could ride my mount, the Flame Elf King finally said, though his eyes showed some hesitation. It was clear he had a bit of a cleanliness obsession about his mounts and probably didn't want Zhao Chun, an outsider, to ride his. No need. Zhao Chun smiled at the Flame Elf King. Since the Flame Elf King doesn't mind, she can ride her own mount. That would be great. Come on, said the Flame Elf King, then jumped onto the back of the red giant bird. He had heard before that elves are light and quick, able to leap several meters easily, and can move through the jungle like monkeys. Need help? The Flame Elf King asked, raising an eyebrow as he looked at Zhao Chun on the bird's back. It seemed she was trying to provoke him. Zhao Chun didn't hesitate. He slightly bent his knees and jumped up. Though not as graceful as elves, he landed steadily on the red bird's back. The red bird seemed a bit annoyed by the stranger on its back, letting out a cry and flapping its wings. "Sorry, Little Red doesn't like strangers," said the Flame Elf King, crouching down to soothe his mount. "Maybe we're just not very familiar yet. Once we get to know each other, it'll be fine," Zhao Chun said with a smile. Under the comfort of the Flame Spirit King, the red giant bird calmed down a little. However, Zhao Chun could still sense its slight irritation. At this moment, Gladys appeared on the back of the red giant bird. She looked at the Flame Spirit King and slightly bowed, saying, "Lord Light Radiant Spirit King, let me come up to take care of the Dragon Emperor's safety." It seemed they were still worried that this red giant bird might cause trouble. "This big bird is called Little Red. It grew up with me. Usually, elves with some status have a mount like this from birth," said the Flame Spirit King, standing at the front. She turned to Zhao Chun and Gladys and said, "You better stand firm. If you can't, just hold on to Little Red's feathers. We are about to take off." Gladys immediately crouched down, grabbing a red feather from the giant bird, and adopted a very professional stance, ready for action. She looked at Zhao Chun, who remained calm, and quickly suggested, "Your Majesty, the Dragon Emperor, this bird has a fiery temper. It's not very gentle during flight. It's safer if you stay crouched like me." Zhao Chun smiled and waved his hand, saying, "No problem, I'll stand first. If necessary, I will sit down." Gladys wanted to say more, but suddenly, a strong gust of wind swept into her mouth. The wind was so intense, she couldn't speak. It turned out the giant bird had already begun to ascend rapidly, flapping its huge wings like a rocket shooting into the sky. The strong wind made Gladys crouch down, trying to keep her body close to the bird's, holding onto its feathers so she wouldn't fall off. The Flame Spirit King's face was full of joy. Her red hair fluttered in the wind, making her look like a tiny red elf. The Flame Spirit King did not forget that this time there was a special guest. Actually, she suddenly took off earlier for a small purpose. She wanted to see this guest who came from afar, known as the highest leader of the interstellar civilization, emerging from the flames of war. She wondered what kind of person he was. If he didn't even have this kind of courage, she would be very disappointed. The Flame Spirit King turned her head and looked behind her. She saw Gladys, who was lying on the ground looking embarrassed, and Zhao Chun, standing calmly with his hands behind his back. The Flame Spirit King showed a surprised expression. At this moment, Little Red could be climbing rapidly at nearly a 60-degree angle. Even someone trained like herself couldn't stand here unless she understood the key skills involved. And this man, surprisingly, was so calm and relaxed, even with a look of enjoyment on his face. Zhao Chun was indeed enjoying himself now. He was savoring the feeling of the wind hitting his face, the breeze blowing past his ears, and his clothes fluttering in the wind. He looked at the ground getting smaller and the clouds getting closer. He felt very relaxed. This was very different from riding on a starship or shuttle. Right now, he felt so close to the sky. Every pore in his body was enjoying the freedom of flying in the sky. Then, the giant bird seemed to want to show off its abilities, or perhaps was unhappy with the stranger on its back. It started flying in the air with all kinds of tricky maneuvers. Its speed, angles, and agility made the Flame Spirit King secretly grab a red feather, slightly bending her body to avoid falling. As for Gladys, she dared not open her eyes at this moment. Zhao Chun, however, maintained his natural posture, as if he had become one with the giant bird. Soon, under the flight of the giant bird, Zhao Chun and the others arrived at the top of the huge moon god tree. There, they could see an area prepared specifically for mounts to land. The giant bird flapped its wings, stirring up a strong wind, and slowly descended. At the moment it landed, Gladys, as if fleeing for her life, quickly escaped from the mount, then leaned on a nearby tree and vomited into the grass. "Your Majesty the Dragon Emperor is truly impressive. I didn't expect that riding Little Red for the first time, you would master the skills so quickly. You are the first person to get off Little Red without showing any fear," the Flame Spirit King said openly, clearly testing Zhao Chun's thoughts. Zhao Chun smiled slightly, leaping down from the giant bird. He looked at the red giant bird in front of him. The red giant bird also looked at the man before it. After a few seconds, the red giant bird lowered its head to Zhao Chun. Zhao Chun reached out and gently stroked its beak and its feathers. The red giant bird seemed to enjoy Zhao Chun's touch, making affectionate chirping sounds. I now understand why. Even in this starry era, your elves still keep this primitive way of flying, Zhao Chun said with a smile. The Flame Spirit King smiled and replied, not many traditions have been kept, but this is one of the few remaining. It also shows the resilience of the elves. Today's elves are far less brave and fearless than those who first entered the starry era. Zhao Chun looked at the Flame Spirit King, noticing a hint of reluctance in her eyes. Are you saying that the Holy Spirit Empire has always held back when other civilizations in the universe were invaded by devouring civilizations? Zhao Chun asked. Not just that. Now, the weakness of the elves is deepening into their bones. If it weren't for this time, the devouring civilization would have already reached the neck of the Holy Spirit Empire, and these sleeping people could not be awakened, she replied. However, no one knew if this realization was still timely, the Flame Spirit King hinted. Zhao Chun wanted to say more, but at this moment, others arrived one after another. Shaloman, how are you so quick? Didn't I tell you to be more careful? The Light Radiant Spirit King scolded the Flame Spirit King, then apologized to Zhao Chun. Your Majesty, the Dragon Emperor, I hope you weren't startled. It's okay. I think this is a good experience. It also let me feel the ancient culture of the Holy Spirit Empire, Zhao Chun said with a smile, then looked at the big red bird. Honestly, I really want to take a few of these back. This thing is definitely more convenient and comfortable than a shuttle. The Flame Spirit King naturally didn't know Zhao Chun was interested in his mount. After everyone arrived, the Light Radiant Spirit King ordered Greatest to take Zhao Chun and the Dragon Envoy group to the resting place. Because the formal banquet is tomorrow, Zhao Chun looked at the dimming sky, where many tiny stars like fireflies could be seen around the moon god tree. It was very beautiful. Combined with this natural environment, it was really nice. This is where His Majesty the Dragon Emperor and the Dragon Envoy group will stay tonight. I will also stay here tonight. If you need anything, just call me. Greatest led Zhao Chun and others to their lodging. In front of them was a building with a natural style. There were no modern lights. All illumination came from flowers, plants, and glowing insects flying around. The air was filled with a faint, refreshing scent, making people feel relaxed. The leopard girl led the way, first checking the house thoroughly for Zhao Chun. Soon, the check was complete, and everything was fine. Zhao Chun entered the room. If this place were called a hotel, it would be a hotel grown on a giant flower. At the very top is Zhao Chun's room, and the flowers on each branch below represent other rooms. To reach it, there are steps made of vines. The room isn't very big, but it has everything needed inside. All the furniture and items are made from natural plants. Even the bathroom for bathing is made from the juice of a certain flower. It smells nice, and when you put your hand in, it feels like water. Although it's flower juice, it doesn't feel sticky. The bed is made of a type of wood, but it's soft and comfortable. Zhao Chun looked around the room. How is it? Your Majesty the Emperor, are you satisfied? Gladys asked. It's very good. Zhao Chun nodded happily. He had fully experienced how the Holy Spirit Empire uses plant technology in daily life. From his point of view, this kind of living environment is quite nice, especially for relaxing and healing. It feels like working in a big city for a long time and then returning to the mountains. If you need anything, just contact me directly. Now, I won't disturb your rest. I will come to call you at 8 a.m. tomorrow. The banquet starts at noon tomorrow. If you don't mind, the meeting will be scheduled after the banquet, in the evening. If you'd like to rest a bit longer, it can be arranged for the day after tomorrow. After explaining the schedule for tomorrow, Gladys took her leave. Zhao Chun looked at the quiet room. He walked to the window, pulled aside the leaf-shaped curtain, and looked at the starry sky outside. It really feels like being in a different civilization universe, making Zhao Chun feel like he's in a dream. This is truly a beautiful interstellar civilization, Zhao Chun said sincerely. If there were no conflicts between the two sides, he wouldn't want to see such a civilization destroyed by devouring or chaos. I hope future meetings go smoothly. The Shadow Dragon Empire now needs allies, especially a strong one. Moon God Tree Moon God Temple here. The 3 elf kings and 2 high council members I saw before are all present. Besides them, all other high council members are either here in person or attending via hologram. There are also 2 other elf kings. You've all met the Shadow Dragon Emperor. What do you think of him? Asked a male elf king sitting on the throne, speaking proudly. If Zhao Chun were here, he would think this elf king's arrogant tone is even more than that of the previous Jade Elf King. He seems friendly and easy to approach, said the Light Radiance Elf King first. He is very brave and physically strong. He was the first to ride my mount and stay calm, said the Flame Elf King. He looks quite decent, gave a brief comment the Jade Elf King. But this simple comment surprised everyone in the High Council. Everyone knows how the Jade Elf King is. If an outsider can get such praise from him, it's already quite impressive. For now, there are no problems, but we need more details to be sure, said another High Council member. I think we can move to the next step, said the other council member. Since everyone who has met the Shadow Dragon Emperor thinks there are no issues, we will proceed to the next phase. The devouring civilization has always been watching us closely. Although we don't have to worry about the threat to order, after several wars, the devouring civilization has grown so strong that we can't fight alone. If it weren't for the sudden appearance of this Shadow Dragon Empire, they might already be planning how to invade us. Therefore, finding an ally to face the threat of civilization destruction together must be done quickly. Currently, the most suitable candidate is the Xiaolong Empire. Additionally, the civilization threat is also trying to invade the Xiaolong Empire's universe. This means we can use the Xiaolong Empire's universe as a buffer zone. Since the war is not directly happening in our universe, the impact on us will be minimized, said a gentle-voiced female elf queen. Although her voice was soft, her words were very realistic. The Xiaolong Empire has sent a delegation, and all their starships are T6 and T5 level. In terms of strength, they are fully capable of earning our trust. Fighting alongside us is completely possible, said the Light Radiance Elf King solemnly. Then, how should we cooperate? That's a big question, said a senior counselor. Other senior counselors also spoke up. We can cooperate with the Xiaolong Empire, but we must take the lead in this partnership. The command of the battlefield must be under our control. We cannot agree to the Xiaolong Empire's previous request to station troops in our universe. When did our Holy Elf Empire ever allow other civilizations to station troops in our universe? Why would we need their help? Most of these suggestions were from the perspective of the higher-ups, only considering the interests of the Holy Elf Empire. Hearing this, the Flame Elf King frowned. She stood up and said, "Enough? What are you thinking about at this moment? In the past, when other civilizations were invaded, we could have had many allies fighting alongside us. If we had acted then, we wouldn't be in this situation now. Now, you're still thinking about these issues. Can't we just honestly cooperate with them? We share the same military strength with them. We should focus solely on confronting and defeating the civilization that threatens us during this meeting. We should not let other things interfere. We once made a wrong choice before. If we make another mistake now, it will push our sacred spirit empire into a deep abyss." Zhao Chen finally understood what birds singing and flowers blooming really means. He truly woke up surrounded by the beauty of nature. Even in the breakfast prepared by Gladys today, there were flower petals. And surprisingly, the petals tasted a little sweet, like eating fresh, sweet vegetables. "Get ready. Soon, I will take you to the banquet hall," Gladys said nearby. "Okay," Zhao Chen nodded. Next, Zhao Chun and his dragon envoy team followed the usual visiting procedures and attended a unique and elegant reception banquet. The banquet was held in a garden, with mostly vegetarian food. Every dish was very beautiful and smelled wonderful. But Zhao Chun was starting to miss meat dishes. These elven vegetarian dishes were okay to try once in a while, but eating them for several days in a row made his taste buds grow tired of them. So, at the banquet, Zhao Chen only took a small bite of each dish to taste the flavor. Most of the guests were high-level elves. Zhao Chen hadn't seen any other alien species from distant galaxies, which showed the high status of elves in the Holy Spirit Empire. However, most of these high elves showed little interest in the visitors from faraway space. They watched Zhao Chun and his group from a distance, whispering among themselves. Some of their eyes even looked disdainful. "Your Majesty, their gazes really make me uncomfortable," the leopard girl said as she nibbled on some grass nearby. Then, He muttered, I don't know what these foods are supposed to be. They don't fill me up at all. After saying that, he picked up some fruit nearby and started to eat it. Compared to the leafy vegetables, these fruits were at least somewhat edible. Zhao Chun could taste the dishes of the elf race, but as a half-beast woman of the leopard tribe, who was used to eating meat, she really didn't like these kinds of foods. You should think like this. Prejudice and arrogance are the most foolish things a race can have. If we interact with such people, isn't that beneficial for us? Zhao Chun said with a gentle smile. The leopard woman thought for a moment and asked back, but if we're not here to form an alliance with them, then forming an alliance with foolish people. That's. The leopard woman began to think for herself. Zhao Chun smiled slightly and said, you should know that, as allies, being too foolish or too clever isn't suitable. An ally with some cleverness but also foolish pride. That's the kind of ally that is suitable for our Shadow Dragon Empire. The leopard woman suddenly understood and nodded with a smile. She now found these elves much more agreeable. At this moment, the Light Radiance Elf King approached Zhao Chun, and they exchanged greetings. It seems Your Majesty the Emperor isn't very interested in this banquet. Did we not host well enough? The Light Radiance Elf King asked. Zhao Chun shook his head with a smile and explained, Your country's hospitality has been very good. But right now, the most important things are our alliance and discussing how to deal with the threats of the devouring civilization and the order. If we can solve these problems, I believe I will be in a better state in the future to experience everything here in the Holy Elf Empire. The Light Radiance Elf King smiled slightly and said, Your Majesty the Shadow Dragon Emperor truly cares about his people and his country. In that case, we can shorten the banquet and discuss the alliance earlier. However, because our several elf kings and high council members are spread across the empire, they cannot all gather here in a short time. Therefore, during the entire alliance meeting, the elf kings and high council members who cannot attend will participate via holographic images. We hope Your Majesty, the Dragon Emperor, will understand. Zhao Chun nodded and said, I understand. Next, the banquet proceeded more quickly. The originally scheduled time was shortened. Afterward, Zhao Chun and others were taken to a semi-open conference hall. The hall had a large central platform, with semicircular seats rising from low to high in front. It seems these are the seats for the High Council members. That is the position for your country's delegation, said Gladys, sitting with the Dragon delegation members. Compared to the over 100 High Council members, the dozen or so members of the Dragon delegation seemed much smaller. But each member of the Dragon delegation looked confident. Because of their special status, they had previously been almost invisible within the Dragon Empire, the Dragon Empire's Interstellar Foreign Affairs Department. Before, this department was almost useless because the entire Dragon Empire was unified under Zhao Chun. Who would they even need to have diplomatic relations with? Would they go to the Order of Diplomacy? They wouldn't even respond. So, the Dragon Empire's Interstellar Foreign Affairs Department had no real role. Until the appearance of the Holy Spirit Elf Empire. Lilith immediately activated the Empire's Foreign Affairs Department, and the staff began preparing with full energy. They had been idle for over 2 years, not doing much work. They felt a bit ashamed about collecting their salaries without working. Now that I finally have my first job, I must achieve some success. I can't let those 2 years of salary go to waste. As Zhao Chun walked past the Xiaolong envoy seats, he exchanged glances with a middle-aged woman wearing glasses. She is Su Yan, the current Minister of Foreign Affairs for the Xiaolong Empire. Before this, she served as the Minister of Foreign Affairs for the Starshine Empire. Next to her sat a confident middle-aged man and woman. Their previous roles included Minister of Foreign Affairs for the Holy Light Empire, Minister of Foreign Affairs for the Warhammer Stellar Federation, and Minister of Foreign Affairs for the Angel Race, among others. All of them are talented diplomats from the Xiaolong universe, experienced in interstellar diplomacy. Now, they finally have a chance to show their skills. Each of them is eager and ready to act. Zhao Chun recalled the conversation from last night when they were summoned. Su Yan, the foreign minister, openly said, Your Majesty, watch my lead tomorrow. If you don't follow my guidance, don't speak. Leave everything to us. We guarantee that our Xiaolong Empire will gain the greatest benefit from this negotiation. The glowing light elf king smiled and gestured for Zhao Chun to follow him, indicating a seat on the stage. There are 6 seats on the stage, but it's clear that only 5 are meant for use. arranged in a half-moon shape facing the High Council seats. Now, an extra seat has been added in the middle, and its style is different from the others, clearly an addition. "Please sit," said the glowing light elf king, pointing to the seat beside him. Zhao Chen nodded and sat down. This placed him directly in the center of the stage, the C position. Although these high elves are proud, they are very proper in etiquette. Perhaps, in their view, showing disrespect in front of outsiders would be a shame. After sitting down, Zhao Chen looked around at the surroundings. On his left hand is the Light Radiant Spirit King, and to the left of the Light Radiant Spirit King is the Jade Spirit King. The space to the left of the Jade Spirit King is empty. On Zhao Chen's right side, the space is also empty, and the far right seat is occupied by the Flame Spirit King. The Flame Spirit King notices Zhao Chen's gaze and gives a gentle smile. At this moment, two beams of light appear in the two empty seats. Meanwhile, in the empty seats of the High Council, light and shadow also appear. This is probably the holographic images of those who cannot attend in person, participating remotely in the meeting. A man with dark skin and cold eyes appears on Zhao Chen's right side. He glances at Zhao Chen and then looks away. Zhao Chen understands who this person is. He is the Night Moon Spirit King, one of the 5 Spirit Kings of the Holy Spirit Empire. At this moment, a very gentle-looking female elf appears in the leftmost position. She has fair, delicate skin and wears a light blue sheer dress. The female elf looks at Zhao Chen. When they meet eyes, she smiles slightly and nods, giving a very gentle impression. This is the Water Moon Spirit King, Meritus, one of the 5 Spirit Kings. It is said that she is a mixed blood elf, with the bloodlines of the Moonlight Elf and Water Elf. She is known as the gentlest of the Spirit Kings. Within the Holy Spirit Empire, she has a high reputation, not only among elves, but also among other interstellar races. At this moment, all the members of the High Council are present. The entire council hall suddenly lights up. I declare that the meeting to discuss the alliance with the Dragon Empire begins now. Next, both sides will present their ideas and opinions on the alliance, announces the Light Radiant Spirit King, presiding over the meeting. But the rest of the proceedings are left to the elven representatives of the High Council. Honorable Emperor of the Dragon Empire, we are very pleased to welcome you to our Holy Spirit Empire. The High Elf speaking initially had a quite polite attitude, but in the next moment, his tone suddenly changed. I have heard that the Xianglong Empire has been repeatedly invaded by the Dark Army fleet of the Chaos Legion. It has just recovered from a civil war, and the empire was founded only 2 years ago, still in a state of rebuilding. Now, it is also being targeted by the devouring civilization. We sincerely sympathize with and are concerned about the Xianglong Empire's situation. We are very willing to establish an alliance with the Xianglong Empire and help them. We are willing to send troops to station in the Xianglong Empire. The following words were quite similar to the demands Gladys made during her meeting with the Xianglong Empire before. Basically, it was unconditional military stationing in the Xianglong Empire, with priority access to stargates, starports, and so on. They also wanted to build large, permanent, two-way cosmic stargates, which must be under the jurisdiction of the Holy Elf Empire. Furthermore, in the battle against the devouring civilization, both the Holy Elf fleet and the Xianglong fleet must have a single commander, and that commander must be from the Holy Elf Empire. Besides these, although there were many unreasonable demands, compared to the others, they were not so important. While listening to this, Zhao Chen still wore a calm smile on his face. He knew very well that negotiations are just a process of bargaining. What if the High Council starts with such a strong show of force? If they can't reach an agreement, they can simply walk away and stop talking. At this moment, Minister Su Yin suddenly slammed the table, interrupting the High Elf's speech, which made the elf unhappy. Sorry, I know it's rude to interrupt your speech here, but equally, I think it's very impolite to shamelessly make such excessive demands. If your side is approaching this with such an attitude, wanting to form an alliance, then perhaps this meeting should end here. We are also unwilling to waste more time. Instead of wasting time here, we should focus on preparing the army to fight the consuming civilization and be ready for a decisive battle. What do you mean by that, Your Excellency? Calling it shameless to make such a request is unfair. It is simply a reasonable suggestion. We also want to help the Xianglong Empire. Given your current situation, Facing the consuming civilization and the dark fleet that could return at any moment, how much chance do you have of winning? You haven't fought the consuming civilization before and don't understand how powerful they are. Relying only on yourselves, there is no hope of victory. Another high elf spoke. We haven't fought the consuming civilization, but the Xiongling Empire always fights with integrity. We don't bow or beg. From where I stand, I see no sincerity from your side, Minister Su Yin said coldly, then added, even if we are not a match for the consuming civilization, may I ask, are you your civilization's opponent? After we are defeated, the next target of the consuming civilization will be your country. The only difference between us is the order of who falls first. In response to Minister Su Yan's sharp words, the High Council also quickly countered. Members of the Xiongling delegation kept speaking, all for their own interests. From the big picture to small details like garrisons, stargates, starports, command rights, and so on. Both sides argued fiercely below. Meanwhile, the few people in power on the stage remained calm. Even the Emerald Elf King half closed his eyes and sipped some kind of wine. Zhao Chen simply closed his eyes, leaning back in his chair, appearing to rest. This kind of negotiation tests the patience and resolve of both sides. Inside the entire council hall, voices rose and fell continuously. Although the Xiongling delegation had far fewer members than the High Council, their presence was just as impressive. In almost every aspect, the Xiongling diplomatic team refused to back down. Just as it seemed the talks might reach a deadlock, it was the Kagaya Elf King who finally couldn't hold back. He turned his head and looked coldly at Zhao Chun. Your Majesty, the Emperor of the Xiongling, so far, I haven't seen any real sign of sincerity from your country in coming so far to form an alliance with us. His words implied that Zhao Chun and his team were the ones eager to form an alliance and had traveled a long way to do so. Zhao Chun's lips curled slightly. He glanced at Minister Su Yin, who was standing nearby. After exchanging looks, Zhao Chun stood up and straightened his clothes. Sorry, perhaps there has been some misunderstanding. I am here in the Holy Elf Empire by invitation. I don't understand what the Kagaya Elf King means by sincerity. If these negotiations can't continue, we can each go our own way. As he spoke, Zhao Chun prepared to turn and leave. Members of the Xiongling diplomatic team also stood up. At this moment, the Light Radiance Elf King rose and stopped Zhao Chun, smiling kindly. Your Majesty, please don't take it to heart. Onions has always had this kind of temper, so I hope you won't mind. I think everyone is tired after these negotiations. Why not take a short break? I have ordered some desserts and drinks to be prepared. You and your team can enjoy them in the dining hall outside. Zhao Chun looked at the Light Radiance Elf King and silently nodded, agreeing. Then, the negotiations paused. Both sides temporarily declared a ceasefire. Zhao Chun and the members of the Xiongling team sat in the dining hall. Some team members looked around and quietly took out communication devices, blocking the area to keep Zhao Chun and others hidden, so no outsiders could learn what they were discussing. It looks like you came well prepared this time. I almost got upset looking at the elves across from us, Zhao Chun said with a smile as he looked at these diplomatic staff. This is actually the duty of our empire's Foreign Affairs Department. And these high-ranking elf parliament members are quite hard to read. They all carry themselves with a certain pride, probably because of their customs and etiquette. So, in some parts of the negotiations, we deliberately act stubborn to leave them with no options. Right now, the negotiations are at a critical point. I believe those elf kings are also discussing the final results over there. I guess that the final decisions will be made through private talks between those elf kings and you. After all, the path is already laid out. Whether it succeeds depends on you, said Minister of Foreign Affairs Su Yin, raising his hand to present Zhao Chun with an outline of the alliance agreement. Your Majesty, the parts marked with red lines are areas where we can refuse to make concessions. As long as you stand firm, they will agree. The areas marked with yellow lines are zones where we can accept some compromises, as specified. As long as the negotiations stay within these zones, we are fine. The green areas are just for show, mainly to give the appearance of flexibility. When necessary, you can choose to give up some of these points to the other side as a gesture of sincerity. After all, negotiations shouldn't be aggressive. We also need the other side to feel they've gained something. After hearing Minister Su Yan's explanation, Zhao Chen's eyes lit up. His preparations were indeed very thorough. There was no need for him to think further. Very good. After we return, I will definitely reward you. You have done a great job this time, Zhao Chun said appreciatively as he looked at them. Minister Su Yan smiled and replied, Your Majesty, this is simply part of our empire's diplomatic duties. Honestly, we are very happy to have such an opportunity to showcase our abilities. Previously, we thought our empire's diplomatic department had no more use, and many people wanted to transfer to other departments. Now, we can finally contribute to the empire, and we are very happy. Other members of the diplomatic team also spoke one after another. It was clear they truly felt they had made a difference this time. Soon, the short break ended. Zhao Chun and others prepared to return to the banquet hall. But when Zhao Chun was about to go on stage, the Light Radiance Elf King stopped him. He smiled and pointed to a door behind the stage. Emperor Xiaolong, please come this way. Zhao Chun paused for a moment and silently followed the Light Radiance Elf King. It seemed that the final purpose of this visit to the Holy Elf Empire was about to be revealed. Through the door behind the stage, there was a small, elegant room with a table made of growing plants. The other 4 elf kings were already sitting around a round table. Please, said the Light Radiance Elf King, indicating Zhao Chun should sit down. After Zhao Chun sat down, the Light Radiance Elf King spoke directly. Now, it's just the few of us here. Let me be straightforward. This time, the Emperor Xiaolong came to our Holy Elf Empire with the idea of forming an alliance. However, there are some small disagreements. But the most important thing right now is not arguing over minor issues. It's about how to resist the invasion of the devouring civilization. Honestly, although the devouring civilization might invade the Xiaolong Empire first, it will soon threaten our Holy Elf Empire. We are in a relationship like the lips and teeth. If one suffers, the other is affected. So, we must quickly form an alliance and move on to the next phase of joint action. Right now, the 5 of us Elf Kings are here, discussing the points raised by the high-level counselors outside and the Xiaolong diplomatic delegation you brought. We need to finalize these points as soon as possible. Do you think that's okay? The Light Radiant Spirit King looked at Zhao Chun. The High Council seems to be the core of the Holy Spirit Empire's government, but in reality, the true power lies with these 5 Spirit Kings. I am willing, of course, but it depends on whether you are willing, Zhao Chun said calmly. Next, the negotiations between Zhao Chun and the 5 Spirit Kings went surprisingly smoothly. This might be because Zhao Chun had prepared the way beforehand, or because of their mutual status. During the talks, Zhao Chun made some concessions on minor issues, following Minister Su Yan's advice, which seemed to give the Holy Spirit Empire some advantages. However, the core interests were never compromised by Zhao Chun. Most of the issues have already been discussed and agreed upon. Only a few important matters remain, said the Light Radiant Spirit King, raising his hand and pointing to the 4 main points in the draft agreement. 4 glowing circles appeared before everyone, highlighting the key issues. We do not accept the stationing of troops, said the Nightshine Spirit King. Zhao Chun replied directly, Our troop presence is just a formality. We are allies, here to help and cooperate. Although the current threat from the devouring civilization is directed at our Xiaolong Empire, if in the future they plan to attack the Holy Spirit Empire, we can't just stand by as allies. As for the number of troops, we can discuss it. Before coming here, I talked with your representative, Miss Gladys. For example, if your country plans to send 1 million elves to station in our Xiaolong Empire, then we have the right to send up to 200,000 Xiaolong Starfleet ships to the Holy Spirit Empire. A ratio of 5 to 1 is acceptable to us. If our demands cannot be met, then all proposals will be cancelled, Zhao Chun said firmly, placing his hand on the table. Although it seems that the ratio of 5 to 1 puts the Xianlong Empire at a disadvantage, there's no other way. Even if the Holy Spirit Empire is willing to let the Xianlong Empire send 1 million ships to station within its borders, the problem is, can the Xianlong Empire muster so many interstellar warships? If they can't, there's no need to bluff. Appearing to retreat while actually gaining some real benefits is enough. 100,000 ships. Kagaya Elf King suddenly spoke again. Zhao Chun glanced at this dark-skinned elf. It's unclear whether it's his personality or after discussing with the other elf kings, but this Kagaya Elf King is acting as the tough negotiator here. 5 to 1, there's no doubt about that, Zhao Chun said confidently. All right. 5-1, just 5-1. Since the Qianlong Emperor is firm on this point, we'll accept it. But we have one request. That is, the Qianlong Empire's station troops can only operate within the limits we allow, said the Light Sun Elf King, smiling at Zhao Chun but with a hint of warning in his words. Zhao Chun smiled slightly. That's no problem. But I need to clarify one more thing. If, in the future, an event like the devouring civilization invading the Holy Spirit Empire occurs, the Qianlong Empire's fleet has the right to appear within the combat zone. The Light Sun Elf King hesitated but ultimately agreed to this condition. At least in their view, the devouring civilization has no reason or ability to invade two cosmic empires at once. Regarding the aid troops we are sending to your country, the Holy Spirit Empire can currently dispatch in phases a total of 5 million interstellar warships to support your nation, said the Light Sun Elf King. From what Zhao Chun had learned from Gladys and from the current network of the Holy Spirit Empire, the number of active interstellar warships in the Holy Spirit Empire now reaches 30 million. Now, they are willing to send 5 million ships, which looks like a big show of force. However, this only accounts for 1/6, indicating they are not yet ready to fight a decisive battle with the devouring civilization in the Shadow Dragon Empire. They are still holding back many options. 5 million ships is no problem, Zhao Chun nodded. With 5 million ships, Zhao Chun can deploy up to 500,000 Shadow Dragon interstellar warships to defend the Holy Spirit Empire. But given the current situation, Zhao Chun simply cannot send such a large fleet here. We cannot give you control of our interstellar warships, said the Light Radiance Elf King in a serious tone. Zhao Chun tapped his fingers on the table and said calmly, Actually, there's no need for us to argue about this. Neither side can let the other's fleet be commanded by the other. Since that's the case, we might as well command our own fleet separately. But to prepare for possible cooperation on the battlefield, both sides should establish a joint command center. This center will share all combat intelligence and information related to the devouring civilization and the order. If cooperation is needed, decisions will be made through this joint command. The Elf Kings looked at each other silently. The Light Radiance Elf King said, We have no objections to that. Then let's not delay anymore. I'll say everything at once, Zhao Chun said, placing his elbow on the table confidently. Regarding the construction of the Universe Stargate, you previously said that since the technology was provided by you, the permanent Stargate across the universe should be controlled by you, Zhao Chun stated. That is correct, replied the Night Glow Elf King calmly. You are right. But who told you that our Shadow Dragon Empire doesn't have this kind of technology? Zhao Chun asked back. The Elf Kings all looked at Zhao Chun together. Zhao Chun's lips curl slightly upward. Within a week, I will provide a framework for the technology of the Cosmic Stargate. If you have no issues after reviewing it, it means our Shadow Dragon Empire also possesses the same technology. Since that's the case, there's no need to discuss the matter of one side unilaterally providing the technology. At that time, the technology used to build the Cosmic Stargate can be yours or ours. So, there's no need to argue about it anymore. Suppose both sides use their own technology and neither wants to let the other control the Stargate. I'll be straightforward. It's just about some concerns. Everyone understands this clearly. So, let's not hide any small thoughts. The control of the Cosmic Stargate will be shared by both sides. The Shadow Dragon Empire will control one side, and your side, the Holy Spirit Empire, will control the other. It's that simple. Do you really have the technology for the Cosmic Stargate? The Emerald Spirit King looked at Zhao Chun with suspicion. From what we know, your side is having difficulty even traveling between universes. Zhao Chun's lips curl slightly upward. Our Shadow Dragon Empire tends to be low-key about this. We like to hide our good things. You've seen the T6 interstellar warships we use, so you should know that our technology isn't inferior to your country's. If you don't believe it, in a few days I can show you the framework of our Cosmic Stargate technology. And if you're still worried, using our Stargate technology is also no problem. We will station 5 military bases, providing at least T5 level stargates, starports, and other military facilities to ensure your fleet's presence. However, these stargates and starports will still be under our control. We guarantee that during this time, your fleet's needs will be met unconditionally. But without our permission, your fleet is not allowed to leave the designated area during non-war periods. During wartime, we will designate areas affected by the conflict. In these affected zones, we will establish separate war zones. Your fleet can only operate within these war zones and must not leave without permission. Additionally, without approval, you are not allowed to seize our starports, stargates, or any military or civilian interstellar facilities, nor land on any planets. When stating these rules, our tone is firm and unquestionable. That's not allowed, and that's not allowed either. It seems your country doesn't really need reinforcements, said the Elf King Kaguya coldly. Zhao Qin sat back calmly and said, "Let me repeat once more. This is not a one-sided request for help. It's a mutual war alliance for offense and defense. Of course, this is not mandatory. If your side does not agree, then forget it." He shrugged casually. "If needed, I can give you some time to discuss, or let others outside have a proper talk about this issue." The Elf Kings remained silent for a moment. They had probably discussed these issues before. These matters couldn't be handed over to the Higher Council or the Dragon Envoy for negotiation, or they wouldn't be able to reach an agreement overnight. Agreed. The Light Radiant Spirit King looked at Zhao Chun with a gentle smile and said, "After these days of interaction, I believe the Shadow Dragon Emperor is a good ally." Zhao Qin's lips slightly curved upward. That Su Yin truly deserves to be the Minister of the Empire's Foreign Affairs Department. The process here is almost exactly the same as her private conversations with me. Since everyone agrees, when can we formalize the agreement? Zhao Qin asked, shrugging. "This needs some preparation. Let's do it tomorrow," said the Light Radiant Spirit King. "No problem," Zhao Qin nodded. Time is very important to Zhao Qin. He doesn't want to waste more time here. He's eager to return to the Shadow Dragon Empire. Their technological research needs him, and the threat of civilization devouring that could appear at any moment also requires his presence. "May I ask, when can we see your country's inter-universe teleportation gate technology?" The Emerald Spirit King asked with interest. From these interactions, Zhao Chun understood that this Emerald Spirit King seemed aloof, but actually hadn't touched on his most sensitive point. His most sensitive point is probably various technological advancements. The Water Dragon Gate inter-universe travel technology used by the Holy Spirit Empire was actually developed under his leadership. He is very passionate about technological research, especially in plant technology. Within 7 days, Zhao Chun said confidently, "Ha ha ha. None of that really matters. Most likely, the Shadow Dragon Emperor will be our ally in the future." The Light Radiant Spirit King smiled and gave Zhao Qin a polite elven bow. Zhao Qin also returned the gesture. "For enemies, we are ready with our cannons. For friends, we offer fine wine and good food. If there's ever a chance, you are all welcome to visit our Shadow Dragon Empire. You will surely gain something." The alliance agreement was basically settled. Next, it was up to the High Council and the Shadow Dragon diplomatic team to finalize all the terms into a formal agreement. Although some might say that what is written on paper isn't always effective. This thing may not always work perfectly, but sometimes having it makes things clear and fair. Afterward, Zhao Chun and a few elf kings shared dinner and talked about some topics. Taking this chance, Zhao Chun expressed his desire to explore the Holy Elf Empire in the next few days and enjoy its culture and technology. The Light Radiance Elf King agreed directly and asked Gladys to continue accompanying Zhao Chun. Additionally, Zhao Chun hoped to bring back some local products from the Holy Elf Empire. For example, seeds of plants and fruits from the Empire. The Light Radiance Elf King had no problem agreeing and even generously gave many. He probably thought Zhao Chun, as an outsider, really liked their plants and fruits. Zhao Chun also asked to buy some military equipment and industrial products from the Empire. The Light Radiance Elf King didn't immediately agree, but later fulfilled some of Zhao Chun's requests. For example, he allowed Zhao Chun to purchase some T4 starships and all starships below T3 level. Although T4 and below T3 starships are mostly retired from active duty in the Dragon Empire, Zhao Chun's goal wasn't for personal use. He wanted to learn about the technology of the Holy Elf Empire. Even if he couldn't get the most advanced equipment, studying T4 and T3 level technology in starships could help him understand their scientific ideas. A civilization like the Holy Elf Empire, which develops its technology steadily, often improves itself by analyzing early technological products and design ideas. This is also a good learning opportunity for scientists and researchers in the Dragon Empire. Next, the High Council of the Sacred Spirit Empire and the Falcon Dragon Empire delegation quickly finalized most of the alliance details. It was similar to the discussions with Zhao Chun and the Elf Kings. Only the signing time remained. Thank you all for your hard work these days. We brought some ingredients from our interstellar battleship, Zhao Chun said, looking at the members of the diplomatic delegation and the Leopard Woman's personal guard squad. He specifically asked Gratis for a small treasure chest, and their ship's chef cooked the food from there. Since both sides were about to form an alliance, the requests were quite flexible. Gratis made some arrangements, and now Zhao Chun and others had these hot, delicious foods in front of them. So good. Lately, I've only been eating herbs, flowers, and fruits from their land. I almost forgot what meat tastes like. The Leopard Woman couldn't hold back and started biting into a chicken leg on the table. The longer everyone followed Emperor Zhao Chun, the more they understood that he was very kind. So, besides when others were around, they all relaxed more when they were together. Not only the Leopard Woman, but even the members of the Falcon Dragon diplomatic team, with these foods, had satisfied smiles on their faces. This was because the foods from the Sacred Spirit Empire, although new and special, were fine to try once in a while. But eating them continuously was hard to bear. For the Empire, for the Emperor. This is what our Ministry of Foreign Affairs should do. Minister Su Yin raised her glass and said to her colleagues, "This toast is to His Majesty. Thank you, Your Majesty, for giving our Ministry of Foreign Affairs a place to shine. Otherwise, we might just be wasting away in this department. Cheers to His Majesty. Cheers to His Majesty." Others in the diplomatic team echoed. Everyone raised their glasses and celebrated. Zhao Qin put down his empty wine glass and looked at Minister Su Yin. As agreed, in 3 days we will sign the alliance treaty. There is one important clause in the agreement. Both sides will send diplomatic staff and establish an embassy at each other's political centers. You, Su Yin, will be responsible for this personally. Choose the personnel yourself. He paused, then looked serious and turned to the Leopard Woman. The Leopard Woman signaled with a gesture that everything was fine, indicating that all potential eavesdropping devices in the room had been blocked. Su Yin, although we are now allied with the Holy Spirit Empire, no one can predict what might happen tomorrow. So, when you send staff to the Holy Spirit Empire's embassy, make sure they understand that their presence here could lead to any situation, even threaten their safety. Minister Su Yin replied seriously, "Rest assured, Your Majesty, I will handle this properly. As for the safety of our personnel, you don't need to worry. Everyone in our empire's foreign ministry understands their responsibilities. This is our diplomatic battlefield, and where there is a battlefield, there can be sacrifices. We are all prepared to sacrifice for the empire." Zhao Qin nodded contentedly as he looked at Minister Su Yin and the other members of the empire's foreign ministry. At this moment, Su Yin stepped forward and whispered, "Your Majesty, regarding the construction technology of the Cosmic Stargate, the Elf King from the other side requests that you provide the related technology of our Cosmic Stargate. Is there any problem with that?" Su Yin looked at the Emperor with concern. From the information she knew, it seemed that the Dragon Empire might not have this technology. However, earlier, the Emperor had reassured her. Now that the Elf King has made this request clear, if we cannot provide the Stargate technology, it could cause serious issues. At least, the terms regarding the Universe Gate will be changed. "Don't worry, leave this to me," Zhao Qin said with a slight smile and confidence. "Today, you should enjoy this dinner. We haven't prepared much. When we return to the Dragon Empire, I will host a celebration feast for you." "Thank you, Your Majesty." The day before signing the alliance agreement, Zhao Qin met with a few Elf Kings again, but this time only 3 were present: the Light Radiance Elf King, the Emerald Elf King, and the Flame Elf King. The other 2 Elf Kings did not show up. Perhaps they didn't care about this meeting. "Your Majesty of the Dragon Empire, you promised us to show the technology of your country's interdimensional Stargate," the Emerald Elf King said, staring at Zhao Qin. Zhao Qin took out a device that looked like a disc and placed it on the table, then pressed a button. Suddenly, several electronic screens appeared, displaying lines of text that seemed to be very advanced technology. The Emerald Elf King immediately started examining the screens, even directly operating them, pulling up different displays and repeatedly reviewing the details. The Flame Elf King only glanced at it briefly and then stopped looking. She only knew a little about technology. If it were about starship technology, she would be interested, but for this kind of technology, she was not very interested. The Light Radiance Elf King sat nearby, pouring Zhao Chen a cup of tea and chatting with him. After about half an hour, the Emerald Elf King frowned and looked up at Zhao Chen. Your Majesty of the Dragon Empire, why is it that the core technology is missing from these tech displays? Zhao Chen smiled slightly and looked at the Emerald Elf King. Your Majesty, that question is a bit abrupt. The T6 Cross-Universe Permanent Stargate technology is top-tier core technology for both your Sacred Elf Empire and our Shadow Dragon Empire. I can show you the framework of this technology as a gesture of our alliance. However, revealing our core details might be crossing a line. Are you willing to share your Water Dragon Gate technology and the core technology of all T6 interstellar warships with us? Hearing this, the Emerald Elf King paused. That makes sense. Your Majesty, please don't be angry. Manskefield is just this way. He is very focused on technology. He might have been a bit too passionate. Please don't mind. King Guangyao of the Elves immediately stepped in to smooth things over. But we can't see the core technology, so we don't really know what it is, the Emerald Elf King said anxiously. First, I ask, Your Majesty, are there any issues with these frameworks? Zhao Chen asked. The Emerald Elf King hesitated, then replied, It seems fine for now. Good. Since the frameworks are okay, the next step is the core technology. If you still doubt, you can use our Shadow Dragon Empire's cross-universe Stargate technology. We don't mind, Zhao Chen said with a gentle smile. Hearing this, the Guangyao Elf King's expression slightly changed. Regarding the construction costs, the Holy Spirit Empire initially wanted to charge some fees. However, Zhao Chen stated that their Stargate technology could eliminate this expense. This caused the several Elf Kings to fall silent, effectively agreeing to cover the core module construction costs. According to the agreement, both sides must complete the Universe Stargate in the shortest possible time. After the judgment of the Emerald Elf King, it is estimated that it will take about 3 months to build a small Water Dragon Gate Stargate. Aside from a slight reduction in the number of interstellar battleships passing through, there are no major differences. Building a large-scale Universe Stargate would take at least a year, which is too long for the Dragon and Holy Spirit Empires to wait. Currently, this small Stargate is the best choice. The reason why the Elf Kings chose not to discuss using the Dragon Empire's Stargate technology is something Zhao Chen had expected. The so-called Dragon Empire Universe Stargate given to the Emerald Elf King is just a framework. The core technology is not fully developed. Zhao Chen believes he can easily create a prototype of the Stargate framework based on his current theoretical knowledge. Using the inability to publicly share core technology as an excuse, he can naturally pass this off. Zhao Chen is also sure that even if he offered to use the Dragon Empire's Stargate technology, the other side would refuse. The reason is simple. The Holy Spirit Empire is quite proud and only cooperates with the Dragon Empire because of the threat of civilization devouring. Without this threat, they wouldn't agree to many alliance terms. The Universe Stargate that connects two universes is extremely important for both sides, whether from a political or military perspective. For the Holy Spirit Empire, it also carries an additional meaning. They have already tolerated the Qianlong Empire and stationed troops in their universe. But if even this universe gate uses the Qianlong Empire's gate technology, it means they are being controlled by the enemy. Although they are now allies, no one can guarantee what will happen next. Not only Zhao Chen thought of this, but the elves also aren't fools. Using the Holy Spirit Empire's Water Dragon Gate and Stargate technology also shows that the Holy Spirit Empire holds a leading position in this alliance. This helps hide the concessions made in other alliance agreements. Zhao Chen saw through this, so he made these arrangements. As for the Universe Gate, Zhao Chen understands its importance. But, unfortunately, a skilled person cannot do much without resources. Even if Zhao Chen didn't want to use the Holy Spirit Empire's Universe Gate technology, the Qianlong Empire currently cannot produce such a permanent, cross-universe alliance technology. So, they had to choose this option for now. During this time, although the core technology of the gate was built by the Holy Spirit Empire and then transported for assembly, other parts also benefited the Qianlong Empire greatly, speeding up their own development of Universe Gate technology. The alliance negotiations between the two sides are now completely finished. The Holy Spirit Empire held a large ceremony, where 5 elves kings and all members of the High Council attended. Of course, this was mostly shown through holographic images. Many people used holograms. But at least, from the outside, the scene looked very grand. This increased the influence of the Qianlong Empire within the Holy Spirit Empire. In front of everyone, Zhao Chun, representing the Light Radiance Elf King, signed the alliance agreement. This marked the formal alliance between the Qianlong Empire and the Holy Spirit Empire. The two became allies. At the final stage, both sides took a group photo as a record of history. The related footage was also kept as a witness to the event. After the alliance ceremony, there was a grand dinner and celebration. However, these things were not important to Zhao Chun. He left all of them to the Empire's diplomatic department. Members of the diplomatic team, who were skilled in social events, built connections with high-ranking officials of the Holy Spirit Empire during the banquet. This is also part of their job. Later, they planned to establish the first foreign embassy of the Shadow Dragon Empire in the Holy Spirit Empire, which would require frequent interactions with local people. At this moment, outside the banquet, on an open-air platform, Zhao Chun stood in front of a railing made of plants, looking down from 1,000 meters high, overlooking this special planet. Now, at last, we have a chance to communicate, an excited voice said beside him. Zhao Chun smiled slightly and looked at the Flame Spirit King next to him. Yes, I also want to have a good talk with the Flame Spirit King. I heard that your universe has another mechanical race that suddenly disappeared earlier? The Flame Spirit King asked directly. Zhao Chun nodded. Yes. Where did they go? Were they defeated and driven out of your universe? The Flame Spirit King inquired. Zhao Chun smiled and shook his head. No, I think of them as friends. They went to another battlefield, a distant one, to protect our universe home. One day, I will go to bring them back. The Flame Spirit King shook his head and raised 2 fingers. He said, we have only fought against the Dark Legion fleet of the Order and their subordinate forces that devour civilizations. As for the so-called Order insect race or Order undead that appeared in your universe, I have never heard of them. However, I have heard of insect races before, but it seems they were not allied with the Order at that time. These beings are completely unable to communicate. When they appear, they invade nearby planets aimlessly. Our universe also once faced interstellar insect races. We tried to contact them, but it was useless. They reproduce very quickly, and sometimes they even eat all the plants we cultivate just to reproduce. Since then, our High Council set a rule. If interstellar insect races appear in our universe, we will eliminate them all. After all, a space race that only fights and cannot communicate cannot coexist peacefully with us. Zhao Chun looked at the Flame Spirit King and said, I think you mentioned the interstellar insect race because you know that in our Shadow Dragon Empire, there is also a similar insect race. The existence of the Shadow Dragon insect fleet is mentioned in the agreements between the 2 nations. But Zhao Chun publicly claims that it is a military secret of the Shadow Dragon Empire, so it is not convenient to reveal. He used this as an excuse to avoid explaining further. The Flame Spirit King nodded immediately and said, yes. I know you were reluctant to talk about this insect race of your empire before. But now, as the highest commander responsible for military cooperation between the Holy Spirit Empire and the Shadow Dragon Empire, I will personally visit your empire in the future. At that time, the devouring civilization will launch an invasion. I believe that when that happens, my insect race and yours will definitely meet. So I hope to learn as much as possible about them. Zhao Chun casually said, if other elf kings here asked me, I might not bother to answer. Are you annoyed by our proud elf race? Before this, when I interacted with other interstellar races, some people also said the same about us, said the Flame Elf King. He paused, then continued, actually, this might be part of our nature. Including myself, I also have this sense of pride. But in my heart, my pride is directed toward the weak, and I respect the strong. As he spoke, the Flame Elf King fixed his gaze on Zhao Chun with intense eyes. To you, I am a strong person, Zhao Chun chuckled softly. The Flame Elf King raised his hand, and a large digital window appeared, displaying many records about the Shadow Dragon Empire. Some highlighted sections focused on the Shadow Dragon fleet. Zhao Chun, you were once just a baron in the Starshine Empire. But then, you suddenly soared to great heights. Using your advanced technology, you built a powerful shadow dragon fleet. In less than 10 years, you not only brought the fleet to its current strength and established the Shadow Dragon Empire, but also raised the civilization level of the universe from T4 to T6. He paused, then said, I don't know how you achieved such success, but it proves your strength. You have fought many battles against the forces of order, and no matter the situation or the war, you and your Shadow Dragon fleet always win. He had read all the records of your battles over the past few days. You and your fleet are truly formidable, enough to earn my respect. Your Majesty, the Shadow Dragon Emperor, said the Flame Elf King, his eyes burning with heat. If Zhao Qin didn't know the Elf King's personality, he might have thought his charm was so strong it reached a certain level of power. Zhao Qin smiled slightly, looking at the distant scenery. In my empire's insect race, I call them the Shadow Dragon Insectoid Fleet. This is a group of insect-like creatures entirely under my control, and they are enemies of order. As for how I obtained and trained them, I cannot explain. But I can tell you this. In any future battlefield where you fight alongside our Shadow Dragon Empire, they will be completely reliable allies. You can confidently trust them with your back. I know that no matter how much I say now, it might not change your initial impressions of the interstellar insect race. However, I believe that once you fight together on the battlefield, you will realize how strong and dependable they are. The Flame Spirit King did not ask any more questions, but said eagerly, All right, I look forward to the day when we can fight side by side with your country's Shadow Dragon insect fleet. Regarding your country's most powerful starships, such as your T6 Reaper King-class interstellar dreadnought and the T6 Dragon Emperor command ship, the Flame Spirit King seemed like a curious child, constantly asking questions, not only about the current active starships of the Shadow Dragon Empire, but also about past enemies the Empire faced. She inquired about the nearly T7 Dark Starships of the Black Legion, the undead armies of the Order Undead, and more. She even started taking notes right in front of Zhao Chun, occasionally asking questions. She also shared her ideas about the battle formations used in a previous campaign involving the Shadow Dragon fleet. If Zhao Qin's mind hadn't been modified, and if he hadn't been closely observing Charlotte and other military commanders for a long time, absorbing their knowledge, he might not have been able to handle the Flame Spirit King's questions. Zhao Qin also took this opportunity to learn more about the Holy Spirit Empire. Both sides often took turns asking questions, each asking just the right thing. And if one side wanted to avoid a question, both would tactfully change the subject and ask about something else. I heard that your Holy Spirit Empire's most advanced T6 interstellar warships are made from the raw materials of the World Tree. Before I return to the Shadow Dragon Empire, I hope to see it with my own eyes. To be honest with your Majesty the Flame Elf King, I previously used cosmic exploration devices because I encountered a bottleneck with T7 technology. I want to find a way to break through in other universes, he asked sincerely. The Flame Elf King hesitated for a moment and said seriously, You want to see the raw materials of the World Tree? That's not a problem. But I must tell you something in advance. If you're seeking T7 technology, there is no hope for that in our Holy Spirit Empire. And the World Tree can only support T6 technology. So, don't have too high expectations for the World Tree. Zhao Chun was slightly confused and asked, Are you so sure that the World Tree can't break through T7 technology? I find the existence of the World Tree very amazing. Such a wondrous creation must have even more incredible power. The Flame Elf King replied, I can't explain that to you now. All I can say is, don't expect too much from the World Tree. His eyes showed a hint of helplessness. This made Zhao Chun feel that the Holy Spirit Empire might be hiding some secrets that are not known to others. The day before Zhao Chun was about to leave, the Flame Elf King kept his promise and took Zhao Chun to a starship factory below the World Tree. The style of the starship factory was very different, looking like a thicket of thorns from afar. Vines could be seen growing on the outer walls. Zhao Chun and the Flame Elf King took a shuttle into the interior of the starship factory. Sorry, but this starship factory is part of our military facilities, and it is responsible for producing T6-level interstellar warships. So your Majesty the Shadow Dragon Emperor can only follow me here, the Flame Elf King said as he led the way. No problem, Zhao Qin nodded, honestly following the Flame Spirit King. Perhaps to keep things secret, all the passages were fully sealed, So even if Zhao Chun wanted to see the construction process of the current T6 interstellar warships of the Sacred Spirit Empire, he had no chance. Until the Flame Spirit King led Zhao Chun into a huge chamber. When entering this chamber, the Flame Spirit King even performed a quick identity scan, showing how important this place was. Zhao Chun looked at the large chamber in front of him, which didn't have many people. But there was a huge branch lying there. If placed on a planet, it would definitely be a 1,000-year-old ancient tree. But Zhao Chun knew this was just a small branch from the world tree. This is the raw material we collected from the world tree. It is also one of the key materials used to build T6-level interstellar warships. It is a new type of material, but it also contains a lot of energy. So, it is naturally used for building interstellar warships. The Flame Spirit King pointed to the wood and explained. Zhao Chun looked around. From its appearance, it looked almost like an ordinary tree, but Zhao Chun had a feeling that just being near this piece of wood made him feel very comfortable. Since it's so powerful, why can't it be used for breakthroughs in T7 technology? Zhao Chun instinctively asked again. The Flame Spirit King didn't answer. It seemed there was a big secret hidden here. Zhao Chun didn't press further. He said, the world tree is so huge, and if just one branch can build a warship, then you could easily build a large T6 fleet. After saying this, Zhao Chun waited for the Flame Spirit King's explanation, because he guessed it wouldn't be that simple. If what he said is true, then the current number of active T6 interstellar warships in the Holy Spirit Empire should be higher. But after learning more about the Holy Spirit Empire, I see that's not the case. There must be a reason for this. The Flame Spirit King shook her head and explained, the raw materials for the world tree are not something we can actively gather. It's not that we don't want to, but we lack the technology for it. If we try to cut the branches of the world tree ourselves, those branches will quickly age and fall off, turning into dust. Only the branches that naturally fall off contain this special ability, which can be used to build interstellar warships. Although our Holy Spirit Empire is trying to find ways to increase the collection of this raw material, so far, we can only speed up the falling of already detached branches using some methods. We haven't fully mastered this process. Zhao Chun understood what this meant. Basically, the production of this raw material is completely out of their control. This also explains why the Holy Spirit Empire has such a large treasure trove, but doesn't have a powerful military force. I think, if I wanted to take a sample back, it probably wouldn't be possible, Zhao Chun joked. The Flame Spirit King straightforwardly said, given our current cooperation, that's indeed impossible. But in the future, if our relationship becomes closer, there might still be hope. Got it. If I save your Holy Spirit Empire someday and help you out, I want the thickest, hardest branch. No problem. The Flame Spirit King seemed not to catch the joke in Zhao Chun's words. Zhao Chun continued, I'll be leaving tomorrow. When do you and your elven fleet plan to head to the Dragon Empire? As agreed, we will initially send 5 million starships to the Shadow Dragon Empire. However, this will require some time for preparation. It will take about a month in total. Approximately every week, we will send 1 million starships to the Shadow Dragon Empire. Before that, we also need Your Majesty, the Shadow Dragon Emperor, to prepare the industrial bases we require. As for me, I might follow the third batch of starships to the Shadow Dragon Empire. After she finished speaking, the Flame Elf King paused and looked at Zhao Chun. Your Majesty, when do you plan to station your Shadow Dragon fleet in our Holy Elf Empire? There's no rush for that now. When the time comes, I will inform you in advance. You know, our Shadow Dragon Empire isn't as large as your Holy Elf Empire, and we only have a few starships. Although we agreed to exchange starships, in reality, we don't have many fleets to spare, Zhao Chun shrugged. The number of starships doesn't fully show a fleet's combat ability. From what I understand, the Shadow Dragon Legion usually fights battles where they win with fewer troops. By coordinating star missile ships and star escort ships, they often achieve very good battle damage ratios, the Flame Elf King said, staring at Zhao Chun. She really studies her Shadow Dragon fleet a lot. Recently, because of the alliance, it's become easier to communicate than before. Whenever she had a chance, she would ask about various matters. She would openly ask Zhao Chun about some details of the Shadow Dragon starships, and Zhao Chun would answer a few questions when he could. If he couldn't answer, she wouldn't press further. Later, Zhao Chun asked some questions about the raw materials from the world tree, and then the visit was considered over. The Emperor's Guard fleet, Bridge Zhao sat on the throne sofa, watching the Shadow Dragon fleet preparing to return through the porthole. Everything has been arranged. In 10 minutes, the Water Dragon Gate will open, and you and your fleet can return to the Shadow Dragon Empire. This time, our Holy Spirit Empire's Star Fleet will also accompany you to the Shadow Dragon Empire. Besides diplomatic staff, the fleet includes technical experts. Their main task is to oversee the construction of the Water Dragon Gate, Stargate type, on the Shadow Dragon Empire's side. After finishing these words, Gladys looked at Zhao Chun and stood straight. Additionally, I have received a special mission. I will serve as an envoy sent to the Shadow Dragon Empire. If you need to communicate with the Holy Spirit Empire, I can represent the High Council to discuss matters with you. Zhao Chun looked at Gladys. No need to hold back. We are old friends. I didn't expect that this time I would have to bring you back with me. Gladys chuckled softly. You've been with us all this time and haven't had a chance to visit your family, Zhao Chun said. Gladys smiled and replied, you don't need to worry about me. My family and I have kept in touch through video calls. And this trip to the Shadow Dragon Empire will only take a few months. You know, our elves have a very long lifespan. The average lifespan is around 1,000 years. Zhao Chun finally remembered that these elves are very long-lived. Without relying on any lifespan-extending technology, they can live up to 1,000 years. These few months are really nothing to them. Then let's get ready to leave, Zhao Chun said. Soon, everything was the same as when they arrived. With the opening of the Water Dragon Gate, Zhao Chun and his fleet officially began their return journey. Inside one of the starships, which was pitch black and looked like a giant space beast, there was a majestic yet eerie command bridge resembling a palace. Latest news from the Holy Spirit Empire. They have made contact with the universe we recently discovered and have already begun military cooperation, even forming some kind of alliance. They plan to send 5 million interstellar ships to that new universe. In the name of peace, they say they will work together to resist our invasion, said a creature wearing old armor, emitting black smoke. I also know this news. I didn't expect that those timid elves, after abandoning so many universes, would be willing to fight alongside this new civilization and battle us. I really don't understand where they get their courage from. Wouldn't it be better to stay in their own small territory and wait to die? Said one of the 2 video windows in front of us. This creature was very thin, almost like just a skeleton, and spoke with a sneaky smile. In the other video window, there was a large body, as tall as a small mountain. Don't underestimate them. I looked into this new universe. They call themselves the Shadow Dragon Empire, the Shadow Dragon Universe. It's a space civilization with T6 technology. Great beings also sent fleets to invade this universe, but they were defeated several times. This made the great beings very angry. If their main fleet hadn't been blocked outside this universe by a bunch of metal lumps, they would have already swallowed this universe. So, we should be careful with a civilization that can resist the great beings, said the thin creature with a sneer. Ha ha ha, don't joke with me. This is just a star empire that was founded less than 10 years ago. What is there to be cautious about? Their ability to resist the great being's infiltration is only because the great being's power is limited. If the great beings could fully descend, could this T6 civilization withstand it? The thin creature mocked. The armored creature said seriously, all right, let's stop arguing about these unnecessary things. Currently, our only task is to conquer the Dragon Empire universe and then fully invade the Holy Elf Empire. The existence of the Holy Elf Empire has always been a thorn in the side of great beings. We were about to invade their universe before, but unexpectedly, they used some advanced technology. However, that only slowed down their demise. Let us personally judge their fate on behalf of the great beings. But first, we must eliminate the Dragon Empire. How is the expedition fleet I ordered coming along? I have 5 million starships ready. I also have 5 million starships prepared and ready to depart at any time. Good. Together, we have a total of 15 million starships. We should have no trouble destroying the Dragon Empire. In fact, we can use this opportunity to attract more fleets from the Holy Elf Empire to this battlefield and eliminate them all. Ha ha ha. Devour. Devour everything. Oh, by the way, I want to ask you something. Based on the information I've gathered over the past few days about the devouring civilization in your Holy Elf Empire, it's said that the devouring civilization is controlled by 3 rulers. These 3 rulers are the only followers of order, and there are even rumors that they personally met order itself, gaining its technology to build the current devouring civilization. Did they really meet order? Zhao Chen looked at the familiar scene of traveling through the universe and chatted casually with Gladys beside him. That's just a rumor. Who knows if they really met order? Anyway, we've never seen order ourselves. Order usually appears through mental influence, either subtly affecting you without anyone noticing or being sensed in your mind. It's a very strange thing, Gladys replied. Regarding order, Zhao Chen only knows that it is a powerful spiritual or consciousness entity that controls the mysterious T7 technology. It has many names, but no one truly knows what it looks like. This makes Zhao Chen very curious. Have you ever seen the 3 kings who devour civilizations? I haven't found any images or videos of them. Zhao Chen asked about the devouring civilization. The 3 kings are the peak power of the devouring civilization. There are many legends and rumors about them, but no real images exist. According to rumors, one king is a huge, 5-meter-tall fat man who enjoys eating other intelligent beings. Another is a very cunning and cruel skinny man who likes to bring planets to the brink of destruction and watch the struggle of the dying. The third wears armor and is the highest ranking among the 3, but we have the least information about him. This is the information collected about the Holy Spirit Elf Empire, along with the signed alliance treaty, Zhao Chen said, while looking at Lilith and Charlotte on the video screen, discussing their visit to the Holy Spirit Elf Empire. Lilith was carefully examining the data about the Holy Spirit Elf Empire, reading quickly. Charlotte, on the other hand, was not interested in the treaty details. She looked at Zhao Chen and asked, "Do we have information about their active starships? I heard they have a raw material that can build T6-level starships." Zhao Chen opened another document. It contained various data about starships from the Holy Spirit Elf Empire. Some entries were detailed, while others only had pictures and brief descriptions. Usually, the higher the starship level, the less information there was. These are mainly the current and former starships of the Holy Spirit Empire. All available information is here. There is nothing more detailed. As for the world tree, it is indeed a very special thing, made from a new material and containing some kind of energy. It can be used to build T6-level starships. However, there may be restrictions. I don't know the specifics, as the Holy Spirit Empire has some limits in this area. Zhao Chen explained. Charlotte began to carefully study the information about the starships. At this moment, Lilith had mostly looked through everything. She looked up at Zhao Chen and said, "The alliance agreement is mostly fine. We didn't gain a big advantage, but we also didn't lose out. Right now, this is all we have. But about the Holy Spirit Empire's research on T7-level technology, there doesn't seem to be detailed information." Zhao Chen nodded and explained, "I also tried to find out about that. I did notice that the Holy Spirit Empire's research on T7-level technology isn't very obvious, but they might be keeping it secret." Lilith frowned slightly and said, "Researching T7-level technology usually requires a lot of resources, manpower, and time. It's unlikely there are no signs at all. Plus, the entire universe of the Holy Spirit Empire is controlled by the elves. Only external chaos and destructive civilizations threaten them. Normally, the Holy Spirit Empire could openly research T7 technology and aim to reach that level quickly, so they can stand against chaos. There's no real need for such strict secrecy. At most, they might strengthen security near research facilities to prevent fanatic groups who believe in order from attacking." Zhao Chen said in a deep voice. "Actually, there are some secrets within the Holy Spirit Empire that are hard to explain. Whether it's the Elf King of the Holy Spirit Empire or the envoy Gloria who came back with me this time, I can feel that there are things they are unwilling to reveal. Given this, we can't investigate too deeply for now. Otherwise, it might cause gaps in our cooperation." Lilith nodded in agreement. "That's right. We are currently allied with the Holy Spirit Empire, and we also need to rely on their strength. During this time, we must maintain a good relationship with them. Of course, we can't be completely without any channels to gather information about the Holy Spirit Empire. I will find ways to establish some suitable channels for gathering information." Zhao Chen suddenly smiled and said, Regarding these information channels, I already thought about it before I returned. Lilith looked at Zhao Chun with curiosity. I'll tell you about it later. I'll be away for about 10 days. How are things in various places? Zhao Chun asked with concern. During his trip to the Holy Spirit Empire, Zhao Chun was always worried about his family, so he wanted to return quickly and didn't stay long in the Holy Spirit Empire. Everything is going according to the original plan. There are no problems. As for the possible invasion by the devouring civilization, our Shadow Dragon Empire is maintaining a level 2 alert status everywhere, 24 hours a day. Some important areas have increased patrols. The T6 space monitoring devices are also operational. If there are any unusual movements in our universe, we will be the first to know. Charlotte has also worked out several emergency plans with the marshals. I have also prepared some plans for quickly entering a state of war. Under our plan, once enemies are spotted within the Xianglong Empire's universe, no matter where they appear, we can ensure that 300,000 starships will reach the target area within 3 hours to block the enemy. In an emergency, we can send 1 million starships to the target location within 3 hours. Laliris then explained various aspects of the war preparations. Although the Xianglong Empire now appears peaceful, a single command can turn the entire empire into a state of war in the shortest time. Everyone will contribute their part to the war effort. Earlier, I received a report from the Holy Spirit Empire about the combat strength of their devouring civilization fleet. Take a look and prepare for battle accordingly. Zhao Chun then handed a crucial document to Charlotte and Laliris. Charlotte was very interested in this information. After a quick glance, she said, "Give me 3 days. I will have the Empire's military staff evaluate the devouring civilization fleet based on this data. Later, the Holy Spirit Empire will station troops within our Xianglong Empire, with 5 base locations to be finalized. We also need to assign personnel to contact the Holy Spirit Empire's fleet. Their high elves are quite temperamental and proud. When we negotiate with them, we must be prepared mentally. Remember, they are allies, and we will respect them. But we must also maintain our dignity." Zhao Chun reminded them. "Leave this to me," Laliris nodded. After some casual chatting, Zhao Chun and the others finished their discussion. Once the conversation ended, Zhao Chun hurriedly went to another place. "Is this your Xianglong Empire's capital star system?" The Imperial Guard fleet returned directly to the Xiaolong star system. This was Gladys's first time visiting the Xiaolong star system. When she first arrived in the Xiaolong Empire, she didn't have time to explore much of this universe before being surrounded by the Xiaolong fleet. Since then, even after the misunderstanding was cleared up, she and her fleet were not allowed to leave their position at that time. The only way she could learn about this universe was through local networks. She knew there was a Xiaolong star system and had seen some pictures and videos, but experiencing it firsthand was completely different. "Honestly, our star system isn't as spectacular as your sacred tree star system," Lulu said sincerely, standing beside Gladys. But she looked kindly at the Xiaolong star system and added, "However, this star system has developed under our watch. In less than 10 years, it grew from a small, remote system with fewer than 1 billion people into the capital of this empire. This is our Xiaolong home." Gladys looked at the star system. There were no grand world trees or magical plant landscapes. But seeing the orderly fleets and countless starships moving smoothly, she could feel the vitality of this Xiaolong star system. "Where is your Majesty the Emperor?" Gladys finally noticed that since arriving here, the Xiaolong Emperor had disappeared. Lulu smiled and said, "His Majesty has gone to the Empire Military Research Institute. It's a secret facility, so you can't go there. But you are free to look around the Xiaolong star system. I am here to accompany you." Gladys glanced at Lulu, and they exchanged a subtle, knowing smile. She understood that the Xiaolong Emperor had assigned Lulu to accompany her, mainly to keep an eye on her. This was probably a kind of courtesy, a tradition from her previous experience in her own sacred elf empire, where High Council members would sometimes be assigned to monitor visiting dignitaries. This time, she was the one enjoying the service. However, Gladys had no objections. She smiled and said, "Then I shall accept it humbly. I am very curious about the sovereign of the Howling Dragon Empire, who emerged from this star system, the one that gave birth to the Howling Dragon Empire. What kind of being is he?" Imperial Military Research Institute. After Zhao Chen finished handling the affairs of the Howling Dragon Empire for this period, he immediately rushed back to the Imperial Military Research Institute. He saw the advanced and powerful starships from the Holy Spirit Empire and learned about the strength of the devouring civilization. This made Zhao Chen realize even more how weak his own power was. Suddenly, there was a loud bang. The door was kicked open forcefully. Annie, who was biting into a burger, was startled and trembled. The meat patty from her burger fell to the ground. "What's wrong?" Zhao Chen looked at Annie, who was staring blankly. Annie gazed longingly at the meat patty under Zhao Chen's foot. "Annie, please report on your work during this period. Your sister Nana has already told me about her part of the work on the way here," Zhao Chen said as he took a step forward and noticed a meat patty on the ground. He frowned slightly and muttered, "Whose meat patty is this? Why is it on the floor? Even the cleaning robot doesn't seem to have cleaned it up." Looking at the cleaning robot nearby, Zhao Chen kicked the meat patty into it. With a smooth motion, he thought it looked effortless. Then, Zhao Chen returned to his office next door. Hearing Zhao Chen shout, Annie finally snapped out of her daze. She looked at the remaining bread slice in her burger, pouting. Following her principle of not wasting food, she still put the bread into her mouth. Then she walked over to Zhao Chen's desk and began reporting her work during this period, though her words carried a hint of resentment. After listening to Annie's report, Annie's work ability is still reliable. "These are some notes I have taken recently in the Holy Spirit Empire. Please take a look. They might help with your upcoming research," Zhao Chen said. "Okay," Annie replied, seeing her workload increase but accepting the task with no choice. At that moment, there was a knock on the door. Dr. Camille entered. She had come specially after receiving the notice. "Dr. Camille, you are in charge of the research projects related to space exploration and the cosmic stargate," Zhao Chen said, looking at her. Dr. Camille nodded. "For the space exploration part, you can assign your assistant to handle it. There's no need to rush. Right now, focus on the research of the cosmic stargate. I have some related theoretical materials here that might be useful for you. Take a look at them. Additionally, some technicians from the Holy Spirit Empire have returned with me. Our two countries have formed an alliance, and we will use the Holy Spirit Empire's Water Dragon Gate Stargate technology to build a permanent cosmic stargate connecting the Xianglong Empire's universe and the Holy Spirit Empire's universe. To improve construction efficiency, on our side, the mid- and low-end parts modules will be built by us, with guidance and technical support from those technicians. However, the core technology modules will still be built by the Holy Spirit Empire and then transported here. Although we only have access to mid- and low-end technology, it's better than having nothing at all. Later, you should assign some of your most capable researchers to learn from those Holy Spirit Empire technicians. In short, learn as much as possible. Our goal is to quickly develop the ability to build our own cross-universe travel technology and construct our own cosmic stargate," Zhao Chen said, referring to the words of the Xianglong Emperor. Dr. Camille understood and said excitedly and firmly, "Rest assured, Your Majesty. We will seize any possible opportunity to speed up our research. We will definitely develop inter-universe travel technology that rivals others in the shortest time." Zhao Chen nodded with satisfaction. Currently, Zhao Chen has decided to delay the universe exploration project and focus on developing inter-universe travel technology. The former aims to find the initial state universe to make breakthroughs in T7 technological civilization research. However, based on information from the Holy Spirit Empire, such initial state universes do not exist within the nearby range. As for inter-universe travel technology, relying on others' technology is not sustainable, as it would mean exposing your weaknesses. Therefore, solving this technological problem is the most urgent task. Within the Shadow Dragon Empire, a fleet of starships emerges from a blue mist and appears in this universe. These starships are very different from the Shadow Dragon fleet. They are beautifully crafted, like works of art. In the distance, the Shadow Dragon fleet is waiting for them. That is the second fleet sent by the Holy Spirit Empire, and this time, one of the 5 Spirit Kings, the Flame Spirit King, is accompanying them. "Our Emperor has ordered us to treat them well," the deputy officer told Marshal Zhao Riyue. "I understand," Marshal Zhao Riyue replied calmly, observing the approaching fleet. Because of the visitor's status, Zhao Qin couldn't personally meet them, so he arranged for the second-in-command, who is most suitable, Zhao Riyue. Zhao Riyue is not only the Empire Marshal of the Shadow Dragon Empire, but also Zhao Qin's sister and a member of the royal family. She is fully qualified to welcome the Spirit King. At this moment, she also begins to contact the other side. A video window then appeared. Opposite was the Flame Spirit King. Although I had never seen him in person, during this mission, Zhao Riyue had watched related video footage. She had seen pictures of the Flame Spirit King. Honorable Flame Spirit King, I am the highest commander of the 6th Fleet Group of the Dragon Empire, Marshal of the Empire. I am here to welcome your arrival. On behalf of the Dragon Empire, I welcome you, and also welcome the Flame Spirit King to visit our empire, Zhao Riyue said confidently, smiling as she looked at the Flame Spirit King. The Flame Spirit King also looked at Zhao Riyue with interest. Marshal Zhao, I have heard of you. You are the sister of the Emperor of the Dragon Empire. You have great talent in combat and leadership, and you became the Empire Marshal through your abilities within the Dragon Fleet. I greatly admire your talent in commanding battles. Zhao Riyue was not surprised that the Flame Spirit King was so enthusiastic, because her information indicated that he was the most approachable among the Holy Spirit Empire's kings. He was very interested in war and military fleets, which helped maintain good relations with him. You flatter me. I am just doing my duty in my position. Honorable Flame Spirit King, do you and your fleet need rest? If so, we can take a break here. If not, we can set out immediately for your temporary base. We have prepared everything for your fleet there, Marshal Zhao Riyue said. The Flame Spirit King nodded happily. Your preparations are very professional. The First Fleet Commander has already reported this to me. Your military base is excellent, with no issues. We do not need rest. We will head straight to the military base. I will arrange for you to receive navigation information. My fleet will follow your Legion fleet, escorting it all the way to the military base where you are stationed. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me at any time. Meanwhile, during this process, no starships within your Legion fleet are allowed to leave without our permission. This applies to your fleet as well. I understand, the Flame Elf King replied calmly. Before coming here, she had already prepared for this situation. But her curiosity about the Dragon Empire was too strong to resist. Marshal Zhao, once I arrive at the military base with my Legion fleet, I would like to request permission to visit the Dragon Star system. Please pass on my request to His Majesty the Dragon Emperor, she said. Zhao Riyue replied, that has already been arranged. His Majesty the Dragon Emperor has instructed that if you wish to visit any part of the Dragon Empire, as long as it is within permitted areas, I can accompany you. During this time, I am your guide. The Flame Elf King looked at Zhao Riyue and smiled, saying, Thank you, Marshal Zhao. After a few more words, the communication was cut off. The Flame Elf King sat calmly in the captain's chair. But beside her, an elf deputy officer couldn't hold back and said, Your Majesty, these people from the Dragon Empire are being too much. We came here to help them, and now they are just spying on us. We just arrived, and although they say they are welcoming us, it's clear they are watching us. The Flame Elf King looked at her deputy and replied softly, What's the problem with that? Before the Dragon Empire sent fleets to our universe, they weren't under our surveillance. We can only decide where their ships can dock. They are on our territory, so we control the arrangements. Now we are on their territory, so why can't we follow their rules? This is the same. We are high elves, after all, and they just. The elf officer instinctively wanted to say something, but sensed the cold gaze of the Flame Elf King. She knew she had said the wrong thing. In the Holy Elf Empire, it's okay to say this to other elf kings. But it's not acceptable here with the Flame Elf King, because here, there are no distinctions of bloodlines or races, only strength matters. As long as you are strong, she will respect you. This is the Xianglong Empire. For a long time, we will be dealing with the Xianglong Empire. If you keep thinking like that, it will eventually cause us trouble. If that happens, I might consider removing you from the expedition fleet, the Flame Elf King said coldly to her trusted follower who had been with her for many years. The elf officer immediately lowered her head, regretful, and said, My lord, it was my mistake just now. I promise I won't make that mistake again. Good. I don't want to see it happen again, the Flame Elf King replied coldly. Under Zhao Riyue's small fleet, 1 million starships of the elf race, relying on the special stargate arranged by the Xionglong Empire, arrived at the military base provided for them in just one day. What kind of stargate is this? So fast. The elf officer looked at the stargate behind her, her expression showing disbelief. It's an advanced, powerful, and comprehensive stargate network. It can send 1 million starships anywhere within a day. This shows the strength of the Xionglong Empire's infrastructure and fleet deployment capabilities. At least in our Holy Elf Empire, it would take at least 2 days to move the same number of starships over the same distance. The Flame Elf King praised generously. The elf officer didn't say anything at this point, because it was true. This also shows the military strength of the Xionglong Empire. The Stargate can send interstellar fleets and supply ships. Thanks to this Stargate network, the Xionglong Empire's fleet will be greatly improved during homeland defense. The Flame Elf King praised. The elf deputy officer couldn't help but agree. From what I observed, the Stargate we used earlier is a large T6 level Stargate. It is more advanced than the T6 Stargates of our Holy Elf Empire. It seems that the Xionglong Empire truly has the technology for intergalactic travel. But this technology is kept very secret. This elf deputy officer used to be in charge of Stargates and knows a lot about them. He also knows that during this cooperation, they will use the Holy Elf Empire's Stargate technology, which caused some disagreements. In the end, the Elves Kings insisted, and the Holy Elf Empire agreed to cover the costs of building the core technology modules, so they decided to use the Holy Elf Empire's technology. At that time, the Xionglong Emperor wanted to prove their empire had the same intergalactic travel tech, so he showed a technical framework to the Jade Elf King. Now it seems that this is true. The T6 Stargate is the main one, with T5 Stargates as backups. They built a huge Stargate network for the Xionglong Empire. The Flame Elf King started to look forward to the temporary military base prepared by the Xionglong Empire. Soon, a star system appeared with interstellar facilities. It was not far from the Stargate they used to arrive. It took only 2 or 3 minutes to reach. This made it easy for the fleet stationed at this military base to respond quickly to any situation. At this moment, the most noticeable part of the military base was a large starport in the center, surrounded by smaller starports arranged in a pattern like a 6-pointed star. It looks like there is one T6 starport and several T5 and T4 starports. In addition, you can see a military base built on a small asteroid in the distance. At this moment, Marshal Zhao Riyue's communication request window popped up. Your Majesty the Elf King, this is the military base we prepared for you and your fleet. The other 4 military bases are similar to this one, with the main difference being the number of lower-level starports. But the differences are not very big. We have assigned code names to these 5 military bases: Elf 1 Base, Elf 2 Base, and so on. The one in front of us is Elf 2 Base. Marshal Zhao Riyue then began to explain in detail. The large Stargate we used earlier is a T6 Sacred Altar class, specially built for transporting the interstellar fleet to this military base. During wartime, it will be fully used for the deployment of the interstellar army fleet. Within this military base, there is a T6 Star Fortress large starport, 3 T5 Moon Spring large starports, and 15 T4 Storm Fortress large starports. There is also an industrial base. The industrial base has various facilities to repair different types of interstellar ships. It is also equipped with 100 T5 Starry heavy industrial ships and 500 T4 Twin Star heavy industrial ships. You and your soldiers can rest in the starports, and we will provide all kinds of living services. This place can accommodate at least 1.5 million interstellar warships of the Elf regular fleet for stationing and rest. After hearing Marshal Zhao Riyue's explanation, the Flame Elf King was quite satisfied. She nodded with a smile and said, Your Majesty the Dragon Emperor, you have thought of everything for us. Even things we didn't think of, you have considered. We are very happy with this kind of military base facility. That's good to hear. If you need anything later, feel free to contact me, Marshal Zhao said with a smile. Afterward, the Elf Legion fleet quickly took up residence at this military base. Once the Elf Legion fleet had settled in, the Flame Elf Queen decided to go to the Xiaolong star system. She even refused the suggestion to bring a fleet along, choosing only to bring her own flagship. She followed Zhao Riyue's fleet to the Xiaolong star system. Her flagship emerged from the star gate of the Xiaolong star system. As the first elf queen from the Holy Elf Empire to visit the power center of the Xiaolong Empire. "This is the Xiaolong star system," she said, carefully observing every scene she could see. Although the Xiaolong star system is not as stunning as the sacred tree star system of the Holy Elf Empire, she noticed many details here. She saw many interstellar transport ships and a large industrial zone in the distance. She knew clearly that this was the advanced starship construction base of the Xiaolong Empire. All the T6 class starships were built here. This made the Flame Elf Queen very curious. But she also understood that this was a military secret of the Xiaolong Empire, and she probably did not have the right to enter. At this moment, a video window appeared. When she opened it, the face of the Xiaolong Emperor Zhao Chen appeared. "Your Majesty the Flame Elf Queen, originally, I should have personally welcomed you to the Xiaolong Empire. But I am unable to leave some matters, so I have asked my sister, Marshal Zhao Riyue, to meet you," Zhao Chen said with a smile. Normally, Zhao Chen was the one who should have greeted her. But now that she was in the Xiaolong star system, it would be inappropriate if he didn't show himself. So, Zhao Chen had already taken the time to come and meet the Flame Elf Queen. "It's no problem. I had a good chat with Marshal Zhao," she said with a smile. "Since this visit is from the Elf Queen to my territory, I should show some hospitality. Please follow me." Zhao Chen's flagship led the way. With Zhao Chen guiding, the Flame Spirit King's ship had the highest access, allowing it to smoothly reach a huge interstellar building. Even the Flame Spirit King was surprised when she saw this building. She stared at the shiny sign. As the Flame Spirit King's ship slowly docked at the special berth prepared for guests, Zhao Chen was already waiting there. He looked at the descending Flame Spirit King and greeted her with a smile, saying, "Welcome, Your Majesty the Spirit King. Is this the interstellar city built by your Xiaolong Empire?" The Flame Spirit King asked curiously. "I saw the words Chang'an City in some information before, but I thought it was just a large spaceport. I didn't expect it to be so huge." At least in the Holy Elf Empire, the Flame Spirit King had never seen such a large interstellar building. Of course, the World Tree didn't count. Chang'an City is the current political center of our Xiaolong Empire. Many important government offices and institutions are built here. We use T6 Divine Palace-level interstellar complex technology. There are more than one of these in the Empire, each with its own name, and different architectural styles depending on the needs, Zhao Chen explained. The Flame Spirit King nodded, smiling, and said, "It seems I will have many surprises in the Xiaolong Empire. Then let's not stand here. Let's go see Chang'an City first, and afterward, I have prepared a welcoming banquet for everyone. Enjoy our Xiaolong Empire's delicious food," Zhao Chen said with a smile. When she heard the word delicious food, the Flame Spirit King and the elves following her showed subtle changes on their faces. But the Flame Spirit King still smiled and agreed. At this moment, the elves found it difficult to express their opinions. They could only follow the Flame Spirit King and the Emperor of the Dragon Empire to explore the city of Chang'an. I must say, the interior design of Chang'an City is truly impressive. It is luxurious yet practical. Moreover, each area has a different style. After walking around, the elves unanimously praised the city, even those who are usually very proud. This shows how outstanding Chang'an City is. At least in terms of beauty and art, it truly captured the hearts of these proud elves. Next, there was a welcoming banquet. The banquet was held in a simple location, an open-air pavilion in the middle of a lake. The bottom was transparent, allowing a clear view of the pure lake water and the food inside. Inside the pavilion, there was a large round table that could seat about 20 people. This perfectly suited the number of guests for the meal. To me, eating is very important. And sitting together at one table shows that we are friends, Zhao Chen said with a smile as he led the Flame Spirit King to his seat. The people accompanying Zhao Chen shared the large round table equally with the Flame Spirit King and his entourage. "Thank you very much for your hospitality, Emperor of the Dragon," said the Flame Spirit King with a faint smile, glancing at his companions. His eyes seemed to remind them that no matter what food was served later, they should at least make a good impression, follow local customs, and show respect. Even if the food didn't match their usual diet, they should still eat something. The elves' attendants looked a bit stiff, as if ready for battle. But soon, the dishes brought to the table surprised them. Half of the dishes were various fruits and vegetables, while the other half looked like meat dishes. The presentation was very beautiful, making the food look appetizing. The most important thing is that some of these fruits and vegetables are actually special products from their sacred spirit empire. This is carefully prepared ingredients by my order. For us, food is the most important thing. Nothing is more important than eating. Considering the dietary preferences of our elf friends, we specifically prepared fruits from the sacred spirit empire and some special fruits from our owl dragon empire. We also prepared some special dishes. If you like them, feel free to eat more, Zhao Chun said with a smile. Is this the sacred spirit empire's water honey peach? The flame elf king looked at the familiar, cut-up fruit in front of him and said in surprise. When I returned from the sacred spirit empire earlier, I brought back some seeds. We cultivated and grew them. And this is the first batch to ripen, Zhao Chun explained. With the existence of AT-6 purple gold eating class starship, the growth time of crops can be greatly shortened. The flame elf king picked up a piece and put it in his mouth. In the next second, his eyes lit up. The watermoon peach is one of the more popular high-level fruits among the elite elves of the sacred spirit empire. And the ones presented to her, the elf queen, are always the best of each season. But compared to the watermoon peach produced by our owl dragon empire in front of her, they are not even in the same league. Is this really something you just cultivated? The flame elf king looked at Zhao Chun with surprise. Zhao Chun nodded. Yes, we have specialized agricultural technology facilities where we can grow higher quality fruits and significantly shorten the growth cycle. I wonder if these meet your preferences as well. This taste is much better than what I've had in our elf empire. Oh my goodness, I love these little fish fruits. But they are so expensive, only thumb-sized, and not satisfying to eat. And you've cultivated ones the size of a fist. This is so enjoyable to eat. At this moment, the elves all started to eat. The first to try were the fruits from the Xiaolong Empire, and they all expressed surprise and praise. Seeing the high-level elves' reactions, Zhao Chun felt very pleased. It seemed that in the future, he could develop a market in another universe and use this to open trade with the Holy Elf Empire. From what he knew, those elves were all wealthy and loved to enjoy themselves. After tasting the specialties of his own empire, the Flame Elf King looked at some fruits and delicacies from the Xiaolong Empire. After trying them, he gave very high praise. I didn't expect that your Xiaolong Empire has such rich and delicious fruits and vegetables, the Flame Elf King sincerely said. At this moment, Zhao Chun pointed to some food that looked very nice, but seemed to be meat-like. I know elves might be a bit resistant to these foods, but give them a try. The Flame Elf King looked at the food Zhao Chun pointed to. She hesitated for a moment, but decided to try. When she picked up the dish and put it in her mouth, her eyes widened again. These are actually vegetarian dishes, just prepared in a different way, Zhao Chun said with a smile. Here, most dishes could be considered vegetarian. When he was in the Holy Elf Empire, Zhao Chun noticed that most of their dishes focused on the original flavor. Things like fruit platters and vegetable salads didn't involve much cooking. This time, Zhao Chun carefully prepared these dishes, mainly vegetarian ingredients, but with exquisite cooking techniques that made the dishes taste completely different and delicious. Seeing the Elf King's expression, the high-level elves also became curious and started tasting the food. Their eyes widened one by one. The banquet ended. Zhao Chun looked at the Flame Elf King and asked, "Your Majesty, I wonder if you are still satisfied with this hospitality." "I'm very satisfied. I didn't expect that the Dragon Empire not only has advanced starship technology, but also such delicious food," said the Flame Elf King with emotion. "Especially your cultivation techniques. Not only can you grow fruits and vegetables quickly for our Holy Elf Empire, but the quality is also excellent. If Your Majesty the Elf King thinks these items are good, we can sell these products to the crew members of the 5 million starships stationed in our Dragon Empire," Zhao Chun said with a smile. Hearing this, the Flame Elf King and the high-level elves showed surprise and happiness in their eyes. They value these kinds of experiences very much, and after tasting better ingredients, they naturally want more of this kind of enjoyment. "That's wonderful." The Flame Elf King even expressed his gratitude. "Thank you so much for the benefits and support you've provided to our expedition fleet. We are allies, so this is only right," Zhao Chun replied with a smile. Next to Zhao Chun, Zhao Ryue watched all this clearly, thinking to herself that her brother still has many little plans. After enjoying this delicious meal, Zhao Chen arranged for people to take the Flame Elf King and her accompanying elves to their lodging. Of course, Zhao Chun and Zhao Riyue completed their tasks for the day. Your hospitality this time is quite unusual, isn't it? You even prepared such a special welcoming banquet. You don't seem like an emperor of an empire, but more like a merchant promoting his products, Zhao Riyue said to Zhao Chun. Zhao Chun stretched lazily and said, if it can make my country richer, then being a merchant is fine. Besides, my goal isn't that simple. It looks like just fruits and vegetables, but based on what we know about the Holy Elf Empire. Mastering the High Elves of the Holy Spirit Empire, their personalities mainly revolve around pursuing spiritual things and enjoying natural fruits and vegetables. In their country, there is even a saying, elves who lose their fruits face death. A land that cannot grow fruits is like hell. It is clear how important these things are to them. Zhao Riyue was a bit surprised. They actually like these kinds of items so much? Maybe you can't understand. It's closely related to their local culture. Some interstellar races prefer useless but beautiful gems, while others spend a lot of money building houses on small planets just for their small families to live alone. If we can understand these traits of different races, we will have an advantage when dealing with them. We have already succeeded in the first step. The performance of the Flame Spirit King and those high elves is the best proof. Next is the second step, selling these kinds of products to the 5 million starships of their empire's elves. 5 million starships means at least 100 billion elves. We can sell low, middle, and high-end fruit products to these 100 billion elves. This way, both their crew members and officers can enjoy our products. In the future, when they return to the Holy Spirit Empire, they will also become our product promoters. Then, we can easily open up the market in the Holy Spirit Empire. This will help us expand our food trade market and also enter the interstellar trade network of the Holy Spirit Empire. Do you know what is the fastest way to learn about a country? It's through trade. Trade allows us to quickly understand all aspects of a country and even build connections. At that time, we can also use this to build our intelligence network in the Holy Spirit Empire. It's a win-win situation, Zhao Chun said sharply. Zhao Riyue looked at Zhao Chun and was a bit surprised. She didn't expect her brother to have planned so far ahead. But those are just future plans. Right now, the most important thing is to prepare for the possible invasion of devouring civilizations. Devouring civilizations are watching us closely. Earlier, we drove away their main agents, so they will definitely strike back hard. Even though we currently have the support of 5 million starships from the Holy Spirit Empire stationed here, we also need to be ready for any situation ourselves. Don't rely entirely on others, Zhao Chun said seriously. Zhao Riyue nodded heavily, and then said solemnly, the 6th Dragon Squadron fleet has been fully trained and prepared during this time. They are ready to fight at any moment to defend the Empire. Zhao Chun looked at Zhao Riyue, nodded, and said with some emotion, sigh. It's a bit strange to think about. I originally wanted you all to have a relaxed life, and step by step, we got to where we are now. But who would have thought that, by accident, I would establish an empire and become its emperor? We built a royal Zhao family. Warner is now the top commander of the Shadow Hunter Elite Fleet, and you are the top commander of the 6th Dragon Squadron. Charlotte, needless to say, after having her child, immediately returned to work, even without much time to spend with her kid. Zhao Chun, with his hands behind his back, looked complicated. I often wonder if the path I took is really right. Zhao Riyue looked at her brother and gently placed her hand on his shoulder. Why are you suddenly so sentimental? This isn't like you. Since we've chosen this path, let's not think about anything else. There we go. Everyone is together. It has been a month since the alliance treaty was signed between the Shadow Dragon Empire and the Holy Spirit Elf Empire. During this month, all 5 million interstellar elven warships arrived at the temporary military base provided by the Shadow Dragon Empire. At the same time, the cosmic portal built with the Holy Spirit Elf Empire's Water Dragon Gate, Stargate technology, is now under construction, and the progress is very fast. There is hope to complete this cosmic portal within the original schedule. Meanwhile, both the Shadow Dragon Empire and the Holy Spirit Elf Empire have increased their interactions and understanding of each other. During this month, Zhao Chun from the Shadow Dragon Empire worked closely with Dr. Camille on complex inter-universe travel technology. They achieved a major breakthrough, successfully conducting 13 short-term inter-universe jumps. This technology is similar to the one-time use technology first used by the Holy Spirit Elf Empire when they first visited the Shadow Dragon Empire. If there are no issues, we will proceed to build the first mass-produced model based on this Y071 prototype. Dr. Camille looked at Zhao Chun and asked for his opinion. Zhao Chun nodded. Our current technology can now support a one-way inter-universe passage, capable of sending 10,000 T5 level interstellar warships at a time. To send a fleet of the Shadow Dragon Empire's ships, we need about 300 such passages. Although the technology isn't very advanced yet and can't fully meet our needs, this is the only tech equipment we can mass-produce right now. We should build a large number first, for military readiness. Then, give this mass-produced model a name, Dr. Camille suggested excitedly. Zhao Chun was momentarily stunned. This was probably the first time he named a piece of technology himself, since the previous Starship technologies and others already had names. In the system, they already had names, and Zhao Chun usually used those to avoid trouble. This is also the result of your hard work during this period. This honor should belong to you. Zhao Chun handed this opportunity to Dr. Camille. Dr. Camille's eyes showed happiness. As scientists, every new technology feels like watching their own child being born. Being able to name their creation is the best reward. Then, let's name it White Jade, because when it opens, it looks like a pure, flawless piece of jade, Dr. Camille said. Zhao Chun had seen the scene during the experiment with White Jade. If the water gate of the Holy Spirit Empire was activated, the surrounding space would turn like a calm water surface, with white mist and faint shapes of dragons. White Jade is simpler, just a mirror-like surface, smooth and flawless, with only a thin layer on top. All right, as you suggested, we'll call it White Jade. Immediately, start production of White Jade. But this task is top secret and must not be leaked. The transportation of this device must also be kept confidential. Quietly move to the fleets of the Dragon Empire, Zhao Chun warned. His handheld device flashed. A video window popped up. Zhao Chun looked at Zhao Ryue on the screen. The third high-level meeting of the two-nation alliance military is ready, Zhao Ryue reported. Zhao Chun nodded. I understand. Most matters are the same as before, handled by your military department. Later, I will meet with the Flame Spirit King. She also hopes to meet with you after this meeting. She says there is something very important to discuss, Zhao Ryue added. Zhao Chun paused. I understand. I will come right after your meeting ends. Arrange for me to meet with the Flame Spirit King. After finishing the communication, Zhao Chun looked at Dr. Camille. Leave the matters here to you. I have other responsibilities. Although we have successfully developed a one-way, single-use interdimensional travel device, it is still not enough. Our goal is a large, permanent interdimensional stargate. I understand. We will continue our research. I guarantee we will catch up with the Holy Spirit Empire as soon as possible, Dr. Camille said firmly. Zhao Chun nodded with satisfaction. Then he left. Starry Chang'an City, a military meeting room somewhere. Zhao Chun approached a partition and watched the heated debate inside the meeting room. Is it always like this? Zhao Chun asked Charlotte beside him. This partition is made of glass, specially prepared for Zhao Chun's arrival. Originally, both sides are commanders. The other side is the elf clan Xingqi Sheng, and we are not inferior. Naturally, no one is willing to accept the other, and everyone wants their side to gain the advantage. So every meeting feels like a battle, Charlotte commented. Maybe that's why Charlotte doesn't participate directly. Won't they get into a fight? Zhao Chun looked at Xue Xiao Xiao, who had one foot on the table, and asked worriedly. It's fine. They all know their limits. The people on the other side are also very polite, at most just exchanging words, Charlotte said casually. Could this affect the relationship between both sides? After all, we might have to fight alongside each other in the future, Zhao Chun asked with concern. Charlotte smiled and replied, I've thought about that. After each meeting, the two most argumentative people from both sides will directly arrange a mock battle to settle the score in combat. So far, each side has won some and lost some. It's become a regular part of the meetings. For us soldiers, there is nothing that cannot be solved by fighting a battle. If one fight isn't enough, then two. If that still doesn't work, I will personally go into battle myself. Hearing this, Zhao Chun nodded with satisfaction. But he quietly added, if anyone loses too badly, Remember to deduct from their salary this month. Charlotte rolled her eyes at Zhao Chun. The Flame Spirit King is waiting in another small meeting room. She looks very serious, probably because of something important. It's okay, let's wait a bit longer. The matter might be important, but I think it's related to the devouring civilization. Since she hasn't contacted me directly, it means things aren't urgent yet, Zhao Chun said calmly. Then he asked, regarding the 5 million starships sent by the Holy Spirit Empire, have you already gathered detailed information? Charlotte nodded and raised her hand. A detailed display appeared in front of Zhao Chun. The Holy Spirit Empire uses a fleet-building system similar to ours, but with some differences in scale. 100 starships make up a small elven fleet. 3,000 starships form an elven battalion fleet. 100,000 starships make an elven legion fleet, and 1 million starships constitute an elven fleet group. Starting from the battalion fleet, each commander is a high elf. Being a high elf is a symbol of status. No matter what kind of elf they originally were, once they are granted the title of high elf, they become like nobles, Charlotte explained. Zhao Chun nodded. He already knew this well. High elves are not a race, but a noble status. This time, they sent 5 elven legion fleets. From what we understand, the Holy Spirit Empire has a total of 30 elven legion fleets. That means they've sent about 1/6 of their fleet strength. Each elven legion fleet has a fleet commander. Currently, these 5 fleet commanders are all under the control of the Flame Spirit King. From what we understand, the Holy Spirit Empire's fleet structure includes more than just the regular Imperial Legion fleets. There are 2 other military fleets. The first is the High Council Fleet Group. As the name suggests, the High Council Fleet Group is specially created by the High Council, usually formed by the major elven noble families. There is no fixed size requirement. Currently, it consists of 3 million interstellar warships. The second is the Elven King Legion Fleet. This fleet is composed of the personal armies of each Elven King, with varying sizes. The largest is naturally the Flame Spirit King's army, which is rumored to have nearly 300,000 Flame Legion ships. It is the strongest military force in the Holy Spirit Empire. The other 4 Elven King's personal armies are also strong, but smaller in scale, and are rarely deployed. Zhao Chun squinted and calculated. The number of regular interstellar warships in the Holy Spirit Empire definitely exceeds 30 million. However, this makes sense, as the number of ships in an empire's fleet is unlikely to match the rumors exactly. Did the Flame Spirit King's own Legion fleet not come this time? Zhao Chun asked curiously. Charlotte shook her head. No, the Flame Spirit King only brought a convoy of 3,000 interstellar warships. Maybe because of the High Council's requirements, the Flame Legion fleet did not participate in this operation. But the Flame Spirit King privately told me that her Flame Legion fleet is always ready for battle. If needed, they can support the Xinlong Empire's battlefield at any time. I trust the Flame Spirit King quite a bit. However, it seems the High Council members of the Holy Spirit Empire are still cautious and hesitant. Back to the main topic. Currently, in our Shadow Dragon Empire, there are 5 elven fleet groups. The Holy Elves' 13th Fleet, the 17th Fleet, the 21st Fleet, the 25th Fleet, and the 30th Fleet, Charlotte explained in detail. Zhao Chun squinted and said, if I'm guessing right, the fleets listed earlier, especially those closer to the top, should be the stronger ones among the 30 fleets of the Holy Elves Empire, right? Charlotte nodded. Not entirely, but that's mostly correct. The fleets listed higher are older, have more combat experience, and are usually equipped with the most advanced starships. You can see that too. The Holy Elves Empire has kept some strength hidden in their cooperation with us. They haven't sent their 10 strongest fleets. Zhao Chun shrugged and chuckled. But that's not specified in the agreement. It only states they will send 5 million standard fleet ships of the Holy Elves Empire. There's no point in arguing about it. These 500 elven starships are better than nothing for the Shadow Dragon Empire. Nothing else. I'll go meet the Flame Elves King now, Zhao Chun said, standing up and looking at the group of arguing commanders across the glass window. All right, Charlotte nodded. Zhao Chun left the room. He turned a few corners in the corridor and entered another small room. The Flame Elves King was already sitting there, tasting the special fruits prepared for her. You're here, she said with a smile, still chewing the fruit. This female elf was becoming more relaxed around Zhao Chun in private. Zhao Chen didn't bother with formalities. He sat opposite her and picked up a fork to eat the fruit. "Are you in the mood to eat? You probably guessed why I came to see you this time," she said, watching Zhao Chen pick the fruit in front of her with a slight frown, as if she was protective of her food. "It's just news from the devouring civilization side. Since you didn't rush to contact me directly, it means the situation isn't urgent yet. It's just that they have taken new actions or are preparing to start a war against us. This was something we expected before, we just didn't know the exact time. Since it will happen eventually, we are all prepared. Worrying now won't help." Zhao Chen calmly chewed the fruit in his mouth. "The fact that you're still so calm as emperor surprises me," said the Flame Spirit King, noticing the fruit on the plate was almost gone and quickly eating the last few pieces. The Flame Spirit King touched her flat stomach and continued, "You're not far from the truth. Our latest information is that the devouring civilization has begun building frontline positions, preparing to send advanced troops into the Xiaolong Empire's universe. They have about 15 million starships. It's unclear how many soul altars they will use. The exact time to launch the attack isn't certain, but it should happen within a week." She paused and added, "Right now, the situation isn't in our favor. The universe gate connecting the two interstellar empires will take at least a month and a half to finish. Considering the enemy's preparations and our overtime work, we need to wait at least another month. During this time, although we have technology like the Water Dragon Gate for cross-universe transport, it's a consumable and can't be used forever. Once the war starts, the consumption will be huge. You need to be prepared." "I understand. You're saying that the supplies needed for 5 million elven starships in battle will require us to provide resources temporarily," Zhao Chen said to the Flame Spirit King. The Flame Spirit King nodded. Zhao Chen replied, "You don't need to worry about that. In the supplementary clauses of our previous alliance agreement, it was clearly stated that although both parties are responsible for the battle expenses of their interstellar fleets on the battlefield, within each interstellar empire, the use of star gates, star ports, daily maintenance, and interstellar transportation, when needed, can be handled by that empire. Furthermore, if a war occurs before the construction of the cosmic star gates, the battlefield expenses generated by the 5 million elven starships stationed in the Shadow Dragon Empire will be initially covered by the Shadow Dragon Empire. Later, the Holy Elf Empire will reimburse these costs. We have already discussed and agreed on these points, so you don't need to worry." The Flame Elf King looked at Zhao Chen and said frankly, "I'm not worried that your country won't follow the agreement. Instead, I am concerned about the war and the battlefield expenses of 5 million starships." So, that was what she was worried about. Zhao Chen smiled slightly and said, "I understand. So far, our Shadow Dragon Empire's fleet hasn't reached 5 million starships, but the battle expenses for each of our campaigns are very large. In our empire, logistics and supplies are never a problem. Your 5 million elven starships' monthly combat expenses are completely manageable for us. The Shadow Dragon Army's fleet has fought many battles before. They might not have as many ships as you, but when it comes to battlefield consumption, no one is more familiar than the logistics department of the Shadow Dragon Empire. Since you're so confident, I feel reassured. Within a week, a war with the devouring civilization will break out. I won't go into the detailed battle plans now. Our team will handle that. But I need to tell you some of my bottom-line principles." The Flame Elf King lowered her voice slightly, her expression serious. "Go ahead," Zhao Chen said. The Flame Elf King's expression was complicated, but she still spoke. "Actually, I shouldn't be telling you this. However, during this time of understanding, I really respect you. I think you are a trustworthy friend, and I also like the empire you have built. I have seen many interstellar civilizations destroyed with my own eyes. I do not want to see such things happen to the Shadow Dragon Empire." Zhao Chen waited for the Flame Spirit King's next words. "Before I set out, the High Council had a secret talk with me. They confirmed a few points, although I don't like some of them. But unfortunately, the other Elf Kings agreed. So, I have to follow their decision. First, the Elf Army fleet sent to fight in the Shadow Dragon Empire must not suffer more than 50% damage. If it exceeds this warning line, all fleets within the Empire must be immediately withdrawn." When he said this, the Flame Spirit King paused and looked at Zhao Chen's face. Zhao Chen remained calm, acting as if he had expected this all along. The Flame Spirit King continued, The daily loss of interstellar warships cannot exceed 50,000. Otherwise, all fleets within the Shadow Dragon Empire must be withdrawn immediately. As the highest commander, I have some control over this, but if the number gets too large, I might not be able to intervene. Also, without the approval of the High Council, our Holy Spirit Empire will not send more reinforcements to support the Shadow Dragon Empire's battlefield. How they will evaluate this depends on how well we fight. After finishing, the Flame Spirit King looked quietly at Zhao Chun. As a commander, he actually disliked this kind of complicated talk. Plus, after spending time with the Shadow Dragon Emperor and learning about the Empire, and knowing that they will fight side by side in the future, he really disliked these hidden motives. So, he decided to openly share what he thought he could say. Zhao Chun's deep gaze fixed on the Flame Spirit King. So, you're actually telling me all this? Because our future selves are comrades, the Flame Spirit King calmly said. Then she earnestly added, and I am doing this from the perspective of the Holy Spirit Empire. In my view, if the Xiongling Empire is defeated, then the battlefield will shift to the Holy Spirit Empire. Relying only on ourselves to face the invasion of devouring civilizations, it is only a matter of time before we are destroyed. Only by working together with you can we hope to defeat the devouring civilization. Therefore, everything I do is to guide the Holy Spirit Empire back onto what I believe is the right path. Zhao Chun smiled slightly and asked, so what are your thoughts? The idea is for us to cooperate. The Flame Spirit King leaned forward, closing the distance between her and Zhao Chun, gesturing between herself and him with her fingers. Aren't we already in a cooperative relationship? Zhao Chun asked knowingly. You understand what I mean. I mean, your cooperation with me. The Flame Spirit King narrowed her eyes. Although she is warlike and usually carefree, that doesn't mean she lacks intelligence. For what purpose? Zhao Chun asked back. Our cooperation is simple. It won't harm the interests of the Xiongling Empire or the Holy Spirit Empire. After all, that would go against our basic principles. Based on this, our goal is to defeat the devouring civilization and seize every opportunity. In this matter, relying only on you or only on me is very difficult to achieve. Only by working together can we succeed, the Flame Spirit King said. Tell me your ideas, Zhao Chun replied. The Flame Spirit King continued. First, we need to change the thoughts of the High Council of the Holy Spirit Empire and the other elven kings behind me. Make them abandon their stubborn idea of fighting to defend their homeland. Shift more focus to the battlefield of the Xiongling Empire. You also know, our Holy Spirit Empire has over 30 million starships, but this time, only 5 million are in the Xiongling Empire. Less than 1/6. In my plan, aside from some necessary defenses in the Holy Spirit Empire, we must send 30 million starships into the Xiongling Empire's battlefield. We need to fight with all our strength against the civilization that is consuming others, as this is our only chance to win. Zhao Chun crossed his arms and shook his head. He said, if the Holy Spirit Empire is under your control, I wouldn't doubt it. But the High Council and the Elf Kings behind you wouldn't agree with this idea. Starting with 5 million ships, adding another 50 million might give us a chance. But they don't have that kind of courage. Or maybe. Zhao Chun looked at the Flame Elf King with a half-smile. Are you trying to get me to help you take power so you can become the only Elf King in the Holy Spirit Empire? The Flame Elf King rolled his eyes at Zhao Chun. That's not what I mean, and it's impossible to do anyway. Don't even think about it. Listen to me carefully. I know it's impossible to achieve my goal all at once, but we can do it step by step. It's like a cautious gambler adding chips at the table. He only bets 1/10 of his chips, so he doesn't mind losing and can leave anytime. But what if he bets 1/4, 1/3, or even half of his chips? Does he still have a way out then? Zhao Chun understood the hint of the Flame Elf King's plan. What do you want to do? He asked. The Flame Elf King said, to get the High Council and those Elf Kings to keep betting. Our first battle against the consuming civilization is very important. First, we must not cross the lines I mentioned earlier. Under these conditions, we need to win a battle within this month. This will give me some leverage to speak to the High Council and the Elf Kings, and to ask for more fleets to be sent to the Xiongling Empire's battlefield. This time, the consuming civilization is expected to send about 15 million starships. If we can destroy 1/3 of